Hello and welcome to episode 219 of the FReality podcast. It has been a strong couple of weeks in VR. PSVR 2's, like late Valentine's Day cards, are showing up on people's doorsteps following an absolute whirlwind of Sony releases, blogs, announcements, tweets, and influencers with early units. I don't know about you, but it sure seems like Sony want your attention this fine February. So, here, my friends, are the hottest topics we'll be discussing on the show today. Dancing, discos, and raves. Why go out when you can pretend you're at the Disco King indoors? The Osbournes are meant to catch a flight, but Ozzy's been grinding his teeth like Mittens the kitten, and we'll tell you why. Sony's announced a sheer cacophony of games for their new headset and flashed a few pretty trailers. Adam's leading the charge for this part this week, and our crew will tell you all about PlayStation's latest fashion accessory. But that's not all. There's a new headset in town. It costs $1,000, and it's tiny. But the market impact of the small form factor HMD surely won't be immaterial. More on that later. And bringing this ship about face to harpoon the white whale, Jose's barking orders from the head of the boat. And we'll be telling all the new fishermen here about catch and release while we wind in our fishing reels and prepare for another fortnight on the salty VRC. Chat, if you've been busy as we have, tell us what you've been doing. Gosh, it's been an absolute mad week. It really has. Mad week. So let me take their gags off and shake virtual hands with our crew. First up, every time we intro this dude, he says, yo, yo. And I think that's probably just a coping mechanism. I mean, jetting his body back and forth, up and down. He rarely sits still, and yet he manages to clock in some serious gaming hours. How does he do it? He's a living yo-yo who only just barely manages to wind himself in to sit still for this show. Please welcome Jose, the VR tech.
I'm not saying yo this time. I'm not starting with yo this time. No, not happening. I was going to, but not this time. Man, perpetual energy. That's exactly, you figured me out. That's exactly how I keep myself awake. Momentum, like kinetic energy. I just keep moving. If I stop, it's over. You know what I'm saying? But dude, like
a shark.
Yeah, but just like you mentioned the Valentine's Day analogy, and I'm like, man, it feels like Valentine's Day in high school all over again. Cause like I feel like I'm left heartbroken. Cause I'm heartbroken by the PlayStation VR 2, man. Like I'll talk more about that later, but I have like pretty much the entire release library, and maybe I played like 3 games, and I had all the time in the world. And I only was able to play a few, but yeah, man.
Strucken down by a sour Valentine card. Yeah, you're not the only one either. I've been surfing Reddit quite a bit, and we'll definitely dig into that. Well, we'll hear the story of your woes, Captain Jose. So thank you for being aboard this fine vessel this week. That's very good. Next up, this guy is an FReality Neanderthal. Back when the show was just smudges of paint around a prehistoric fire pit, Rowdy's ancestors were there, grunting at the stars with some early mutterings about Earth's rotation and the effects of gravitational forces bouncing off and echoing from the lonely cave walls. And unlike the other cave people, he'd sit and play Caveman Age of Empires in a corner all by himself, with a few potted plants, of course, by his side. Pound your chest, throw some leaves, and say, ugh, ugh, me smart, to Rowdy.
Me smart. Yes, that's me. Did you know that the spinning core of the Earth is probably going to change directions, or is in the process of?
That's not good. That's bad, right?
Like they made a movie about it. Like it was pretty bad in the movie.
Was that 2012?
I don't. Yeah, it was something like that. Like that that the Earth's core was going to stop spinning. But
Go haywire.
Apparently it's an event that is quite common in galaxy. Maybe not that.
Yeah, I remember they show it in. I think they can see it in the rings of trees. Like when that happens, like a magnetic polar shift. Is it the same thing, or is that something different?
I have no idea. I have no idea what that is.
The poles go whoop. and everybody falls over and the dinosaurs evaporate. And
Oh, I love the dinosaurs. Not the dinosaurs.
wow, what a brightly lit intro to this podcast so far. This is great.
Exactly.
To be honest, this is like the perfect label for my week. So I will ask you a question, Rowdy. Have you had any highlights? Very, very friendly things that have happened to you this week. Things to lift our spirits.
I went to see the new Avatar. It's kind of like an older movie now already, but I went to see that one and I really enjoyed it. And I went to see it in like not like like those theaters where they say like 6 degrees of free, 12 degrees. I went to see it in a theater that had a 270-degree screen. I mean,
holy shit! I just heard 270 degrees, and then that was.
It's strange because for me,
was it. Hang on a second.
Can you guys hear me or not?
Let me.
Yeah, the live
I
is
can hear you
back.
Fine.
Okay.
Nobody.
We're back.
Nobody
I
dropped
think.
out for me. I don't know why that is.
That's weird, dude.
You said the A word.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Avatar.
one thing. Worth saying this before Rowdy continues about his gigantic screen experience is that in California, there are internet problems happening at the moment. Here in Canada, where Zim and Rowdy are, there's heavy snowfall and a snowstorm. So chances of interruptions this week are a little high for an international podcast. Anyway, Rowdy, tell us about your ginormous screen.
So I mean, the screen, you have a screen in front of you, and then you have screens on the sides of the cinema, basically. So it's not like really? a circle like I was expecting when you say 270 degrees. Expecting to, but it's more like peripheral screens. But I have to say it was pretty cool, and you get used to it quite fast as well, because I was like, there's gonna be too much information. I can only focus on so much. But they, at least in this movie, they played around with that really smart. So screens they turn on and off for like specific scenes. So if they have those giant panning views over Pandora, then the screens switch on, or if they go underwater. And it was an amazing experience, because the movie is like 3 hours long, like, so it's a pretty long movie, but it went by rather fast, and I really enjoyed that. And there's extra screens, like they did make it cooler, for sure.
Wow, that is going to link really well in with something a bit later on. But were the screens on the side? They actually used that same effect at Oculus Connect. Do you remember a few years ago, Rowdy, when we were there, where the frame of the video would change the format and it would go wide, and you'd all get all this extra wide detail. But when you were saying that they were peripheral screens, I imagined something similar to like an early Pimax headset was like, where the peripherals were like out of focus, blurred and stuff. Were they high fidelity? Like, was it the full cinematic experience around the edges, or was it just kind of fringe effect to some extent?
So it was high fidelity, but on the edges, of course, it was a little bit warped. So it was like a little bit like, where you have like the 90-degree corner. So you have it warped, and it warps out like a bit further when you follow the screen along the edge.
Okay. And we're just we're having trouble. They're having trouble hearing you, Rowdy, for some reason. I don't know why your volume level on output is different to us. Let's just do a quick test here just to make sure everyone's okay. Adam, just say hi to us.
Hello.
All right.
How's it going, everybody?
And then Jose.
Yo.
Okay.
You got me to say it. That was just one ruse. That was a ruse just to get me to say it.
We got it.
I'm checking the audio levels here, and it seems to be, at least on my end, it seems to be fine. Like, I may be a little bit on the lower end than the rest, but I did boost it up a little bit, so I think it should be fine.
Yeah, Buck's saying all are quiet except Zim. Interesting.
Because
Zim, you're too loud.
You're just loud.
Let me just actually check something here. So that really sounds interesting. Did you make it through?
The entire movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like because for a 3+ hour movie, I would think I'd have to, run off to the jacks or something.
The first hour I found a little bit slow, but then it kind of ramped up, and it was actually interesting for the entirety of the show. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you recommend people go see it while they still can?
I don't know if it's still in the cinemas, actually. I think I was already quite late to go and see it. But it's, for me, it was a very good movie. It was, because I see people still asking which movie it was. It was the new Avatar.
Yeah. So new Avatar, man, I wanted to see it, but I don't know, since having kids, getting to the cinema is just not easy. It's just not an easy thing to do. You either cause havoc for other people, or your time is just broken up and you're running in and out of the place. So, Yeah, that's a fun one. Anyway, last but not least, the lady of this house returneth. Yes, she breaketh the cycle. That's a little returnal sync there. She also took a month's break from FReality to beat baby seals and steal the blubber from local. No, just kidding. Put your pitchforks down. It wouldn't help anyway. She's got bigger hardware than you, I swear. It's our favorite humpback whale watcher back from her rest and relaxation in Hawaii. It's Adam Bombardi.
Oh, I don't want to say I'm sad to be back because that sounds really insulting. But I went outside, which was good. I went outside. I touched sand. It was great. I'm getting paler again, but I did get a little tanner on my trip, so that was nice. But nice. Yeah, we did a lot of outdoorsy things. So land and sea. By land, we did zip lining, ATV riding. Did like not a Circle Island tour, but they have Road to Hana on Maui, and I was like, I am not going to drive that because it's kind of a precarious. Some parts are like one lane, and there's like garbage trucks driving on this thing, and some of the bridges are like just one lane, so you have to stop at one side and let the cars pass. It's scary, and I don't want to deal with that. So we just took like someone, a local who's driven it many times on like a bus, somehow navigating these windy, narrow roads. It's like, good, they can deal with it. If I die, it's not going to be my fault. It's going to be someone else's fault. But then we also did a submarine tour. It's like it's a tourist submarine, so it's not like a military submarine sort of a thing. It was there's a sunken ship that this company sunk so that coral reef could grow on it. So they kind of took us to that, and it was just really neat. And then like you said, the whale watching. Apparently, it's super rare for the whales to actually approach the boats, and we had a mother and calf just kind of like going underneath our boat and just kind of hanging out for a little while. Like even the tour people, it's exciting when the tour people bring out their phones. And then one of them almost started crying, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't know what's happening, but it's gonna be stored in my brain for forever now. So
what
I guess TLDR was a great trip.
Do you Humpback. Humpback whales?
Humpback whales. Yeah, they I guess
feel,
go ahead.
Like, do you feel any presence of a whale? Like when you feel that like under you? Like that's like that's going through my mind right now.
I don't know about feel, but they did bump the boat. It was more like a raft, like occasionally, which was interesting. But getting to see the shape of them so close under the water was really trippy. And then they had I don't know the sciencey word, and maybe Rowdy could like come up, but they basically put a microphone in the water so that you can actually hear all of the males singing too. And it's crazy because there's so many. It's breeding season there right now for them, so they're all over the place.
You got a boy band act in whale format? That's amazing. That's great.
That's you don't need Rowdy for that. That's called a mixtape. I can answer that. You get a microphone.
It really whales.
The thing that struck me as well, like in addition to the whales and the fact that like we were ogling over, a kayak VR trailer, you went and had the real experience. And some of the things you were putting on Twitter were just amazing. Some of the photos and things. And then one caught my eye in particular, which looked to be an area around, what's it called? Isla Nublar or something in Jurassic Park. Isla Nublar?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Isla Nublar is the island that Jurassic Park is on, the first one.
The first one.
But there was a lot of the helicopter scene in the first Jurassic Park, where they're coming down into the helipad. That was actually filmed on Maui, and I guess I think some private helicopter company bought it out, and they just use it for whatever expensive rich people do.
Pretend to reenact Jurassic Park, I think, is the answer to that one. Yeah.
I guess. But a lot of stuff is filmed mostly like mountains out, like the wider shots were filmed on Maui. A lot of the on land stuff, like the Gallimimus scene and the Indominus Rex pen, I guess you want to call it, that was on Oahu. That's like in Koaloa Ranch. And you can actually go on a tour and go walk around the Indominus pen, and it's neat. It's my favorite movie, so I'm super dino nerd.
I was going to say, you
love
seem
it.
to know a lot about Jurassic. I'm sure Rowdy's there smiling away because he's a dinosaur guy, but you seem to be more like a dinosaur.
Take a picture with the Gallimimus log, like it's awesome. And you just, when you're there, you can see it. Like you're like, this is the field. This is where the Gallimimus are running, and then the T-Rex, bites them and picks it up, and they're hiding. It's great. I love it. Super nerd here.
Super nerd. I like that.
We haven't had a proper VR experience for Jurassic Park, right? Nothing.
No, the Quest sort
well,
of.
I mean, we've
There's
had
only
the Jurassic
the
Park
Raptor
game,
ones.
right?
What? What Jurassic Park? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you mean the
Jurassic
Quest
World, right?
Aftermath, I think.
Yeah. The only other one
Cel-shaded?
the only other one that I've experienced myself was thank you, because I'd forgotten about the Quest. But Dave and Buster's had a 4D VR experience where you'd strap in.
Right.
I don't remember who I went with, but we went and they were like, you were on a 4x4 or something. It was relatively short, like 15 minutes, but certainly better than those Chinese knockoff games from a few years ago, 2017, where you were just basically an FPS on a rail shooter shooting dinosaurs, and that was not very fun.
Yeah, that's all.
Jose, you must know.
Ones, yeah.
You must know.
Yeah, all the
those.
arcade Jurassic Park games are rail shooters.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of them. Yeah, it sucks.
But something more experiential, kind of like what Adam was just describing. I would love to see that in VR. And yeah, I mean, they didn't do a terrible job of it, but I was personally disappointed in the Jurassic Park that we got. Some of the earlier stuff, like I think it was called Blue, where you could see raptors coming up to you, and it was in kind of like it was VR, but I remember it being kind of like a 180-degree video. Do you remember those? Those were kind of cool.
That was like one of the first ones that came out when the Quest came out, I think, or something.
The best
or when
one
the
to
movie
me-
came out.
Even earlier, yeah.
The best one is still Robinson the Journey, right? I think that comes the
Still.
closest to like, having a real like dinosaur experience. I really wish they would make more of those, a sequel to that one, because it's perfectly suited for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it sounds like you have had a very good time off in reality. We're going to have to take away your FReality card, though, because we don't allow that here. Or maybe there's some penance we can come up with later. So with that, I'm really curious what chat have been getting up to in this absolute tornado of an action film that the last week has been in VR. So guys, let me know if you spot anything in there. I'll take a look as well. People were calling out the Blue. The Blue was a good whale sim. I know back in the day, certainly got some hearts beating early on in those days. I remember it was one of the first things that came over to, what was that Vive offering? Not Viveverse.
ViveQuest?
Their subscription. Yeah, Viveport. Viveport, which has kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. It's initially it was a little bit kind of interesting, then it was weak, and I think they buffed it up, and it's a good entry point if you're new to VR. Go look at Viveport as maybe a way to kind of get a subscription to a bunch of games that you can play, particularly if you're on desktop.
There's a lot of people saying as well, like a realistic Jurassic PC VR game would be awesome. Something on rails, but then like having the Jurassic Park experience, I would love that stuff.
I mean, there was kind of like Island 365 game. Wasn't Jurassic Park, but it was 3D at the time, and it had tracker support, so you could kick the dinosaurs if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one.
You kick the dinosaurs. I remember Triceratops in that. Wasn't that also an early adopter for bHaptics support? I might be.
I think for tracker
I
support.
so.
I don't know about bHaptics.
Yeah,
though.
definitely the tracker. I think it was the first game, Island 365. That was a crazy one. It kind of gave those Turok vibes, though, and we're starting to get more.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
There are more and more games coming. Yeah, I want a proper Turok game to come.
Have you guys ever played Dino Crisis for the PlayStation? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want like a Resident Evil-ish with dinosaurs, with raptors. Like, give me that scene in Jurassic Park with the Velociraptors. Turn that into like a Metal Gear Solid-ish game, and just get me into VR, just hiding from raptors, and I'll be happy.
Clever girl. Yeah.
Yes.
Clever girl.
Actually, no. I take it back. I want a Goldblum simulator. That's what I want in VR. I want to just be
like shirtless.
Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, just shirtless in VR. Just look in the mirror in VR.
I always thought the Void would do really, really well, like with those scenes recreated, because you get the breath. Maybe you'd get the you get a fake limb touching your shoulder that you could pull, and you'd see it in VR as you held the thing. I mean, you could get quite terrified in that. So, again, long live the Void. Great. Okay, so chat, you guys seem to have been busy. My highlight, I suppose. My highlight has been primarily Reddit. I've kind of been doing a regular deep dive on Reddit, and I've been reminded. I kind of like Twitter let me down to some extent. I think it let a lot of us down in the way that it's been behaving lately, and with its new ownership. So I was kind of ushered over to Reddit and have rekindled my love for Reddit to some extent. But I won't go too much. You as well, Rowdy?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a nice place, and I also like. I'm calling myself now a hype vampire because I definitely feed off new people who are new to VR, and like getting their first time accounts of that, even if they're making dumb mistakes or pushing themselves too hard or whatever it is, it's just great because it puts you in that seat again. And I don't know how that works, but like even reading a story, I don't have to see a picture necessarily, which is your normal like mirror neurons firing thing. But like even just reading the story, the hype of someone's like first time experience, it's just, I don't know, it's so
So
good.
wholesome.
It truly is. That's why I do arcades. It's so fun. You get those like much more frequent than any other industry. I love it. I love seeing people, especially like older people who, because you can, they've never, like at least kids kind of like get the concept through movies and cartoons.
Yeah.
Like most people don't even, they've never even conceptualized VR. So whenever I go back to like my my parents' home country and go back to Puerto Rico, like I really get like I love showing it to my relatives because they don't even know what VR is in the first place.
God.
So it's like, yeah, they look at it as witchcraft, which is so fun because they're like, "What are you doing to me, transporting me?" And it's so fun.
Puppy, the witch doctor's here again.
Literally, it comes with the crazy technology.
That's exactly it. And you only get that experience once, right? You only get that like change from I don't understand it to I do understand it. I think about it, this is a very nerdy way to think about it, but X equals X plus 1. I play the game Flux a lot, and it's like you go from one reality to many, just that turn event, and having experienced that myself is so great. So game-wise, I wanted to quickly mention 2 games that I'd played. One was Drop Dead the Cabin, firstly because it was just really fun, 2-player co-op. I wish it was more players because it's really fun, like zombie in a cabin, quite unique, but rough. They had some patches out just recently, and I hope that paired stuff up, but buddied up with somebody. And then the second one I wanted to talk to, just a weird indie game. I know last time I mentioned, I think it was Hyperbolica, Limelight. So Limelight is, I think, the second game ever that I've played in VR, which is designed for lying flat on your back, which is an odd place to be. But the thing that I have said kind of time and time again is that there aren't enough games that work well for someone who's in a hospital bed or unable to move around. And so Limelight is a puzzle game. And you basically, I'll just express it in a very Zim way. You're lying flat on your back, and you guide little worms through pipes. So the pipes are kind of 3-dimensional, but as you back away from the scene, they seem quite flat. And the thumbstick controls are neat, so that like if you're moving the thumbstick and there's a wall, your worm can't go. You have to navigate it with your thumb to kind of move it around the scene. And then there's various parts, kind of like things that turn and levers and bad guys that show up. So a bit of an odd little puzzle.
And of course, you played it standing.
I did end up lying down for it, but Rowdy, I linked you to the starting part so people can kind of get a feeling. Because when you are lying down, it's quite far away from you, totally comfortable, and I would be happy doing that. But I actually preferred it standing up. But the other game that I'd played like that was Sound Self, which was it's a game that basically reverberates your own voice back in a delay, and it ends up putting you into a meditative state. So between that and Limelight, those are 2 cool titles that you could check out if you do happen to be in a situation where you're sick, you're laid up or whatever, and you just want to do some VR. They work really well. And in this game, it's funny, you turn around and behind you there's a picture of a dog. I don't know, the dev decided to put the picture of their dog behind you.
That's awesome.
Okay.
It's a bit of a weird one. So that's Limelight. So that was my highlight. Yeah, for the week. Yeah, a bit of a strange one. Just wanted to call it out. I always like it when VR games take a different direction, and appreciate that a lot. So this is the point where it's really my sincere pleasure to bring a new sponsor to the show, and that is Cubism. The developer of Cubism is someone who I befriended several years ago, before this game was even a thing out there, back when it was an early alpha. We've spoke about relaxing titles before. When I think of Cubism, I like to think its closest corollary is Subnautica. And I say that because Subnautica, you start off and you're paddling around and it's all very tranquil, and it's nice, right? But like snacking on wasabi peas, after a while, it works you up to Reaper Leviathan level difficulty. And the puzzles that you are presented with, whilst being in these pastel cute little cubes before you, are dastardly, and they will puzzle you for hours. You're like, why can't you feel like a child who can't work it out yet? Like why the blocks won't go in the puzzle. It's got 90 puzzles now. It's really long. It's available on Quest, Rift, Pico Neo 3, and Steam VR, so it's really all over the place. And one of the things we're showing off here is the ability for hand tracking. So Cubism was one of the first early adopters for hand tracking. But in addition to that, also pass-through. So pass-through and hand tracking together. Actually, if I was like Jose with a Quest Pro, I think this is probably one of the first things I'd try with it for full color pass-through. But one of the things I wanted to mention about Cubism that's so nice and brings me towards like Puzzling Places or Tetris Effect, if you're a fan of those games, is that it's a great kind of after work experience if you're not, especially if you want to sit down and just play a game, but experience the joy of VR. One of the things is the audio track behind the game is like learning piano. You unlock little segments of this tune as you go from puzzle 1, 2, 3, 4. And the thing that does for you is, as you get to puzzle 4 and you get stuck on puzzle 4, you're like, I want to hear the next part of this tune, this jingle. Like you keep playing it over and over again, and you're like, I got to beat this puzzle to unlock the next part of the song. And so that's really smart. But if you get stuck, I'll offer you, Thomas, the dev behind this, years ago, had sent out these promotional posters for Cubism, which is in a poster format, all of the solutions to all of the puzzles.
Cheats.
That's awesome.
Cheats.
It's a dodgy deal on the side here that our sponsor most certainly wouldn't appreciate. Oh no, Thomas, you didn't see that one coming. But I played the long game, buddy. So yeah, if anyone needs some hints or tips, yeah, we'll just we'll do a deal on this.
Donate to the podcast, and then you get the reward of a puzzle.
Yeah. So that's Cubism.
It's kind of funny to see, like, the trailer itself already looks better than whatever it was that magically like presented with their, when they showed the little rock dude. I just find it funny how fast these kind of like technologies evolve, and like how fast you see indie developers doing things that not even 3 years ago were like deemed like super high level, like, the biggest companies could only do this, and now you see like indie developers doing things that are actually cooler than what we're showing off not even that long ago. So sometimes it's good to wait for something to get a little bit more established and some more creative people to get their hands on.
And there aren't many games out there that I would say are a natural shoe-in for this transmutation that we're going to have soon into augmented reality. Cubism is perfect, man. That's just sitting there waiting to get ported to the next like AR headset, right? Like if Apple had a headset, that should be a showcase app. You know what I mean? Yeah. So 100%. There you go. And that's that. So with that, let's get quickly into the news before someone drops me in a Belgian jail for leaking their state secrets. I entitled this one, Good Dev Doggy, Good Boy. Here, have a Scooby snack. All right, well, that's enough of the mystery van for our dear audience and crew. What is Zim on about this time? Well, another Fisherman's Tale by Vertigo Games was just announced, and I can't wait for another like heart-rending VR-size scaling tale. I mean, this is really great news because the first game was fantastic. I remember when Rowdy and I were over for the Vertigo party and they put us in one of their location-based experiences. Their ability to do puzzles combined with player scale is really phenomenal. And they've got a lot of experience in that space. So to bring all they know from kind of like LBE into their games that we can play at home, it's just an advantage that I think a lot of other developers don't have. So this is a follow-up to the award-winning A Fisherman's Tale. If you didn't know about it, again, it's something that would be worth going back and checking out. Yeah, you start off with go on, Rowdy. This game well.
It's one of those games, I think, that makes sense in VR. Like you show this to people. Like it's not like you can't do this on a flat screen. There's just no way that you don't get that feeling, you don't get that impression, and it only really works in VR, and it messes with your mind because you see yourself small, and then you look out and you realize that there's something bigger out there, and then when you're big, you look back at yourself and you're small. Like it's such a cool kind of mechanic that I think only works in VR.
Yeah, you said it right. It is a mind-bending tale. And so this sequel is a poetic story with unique VR puzzle mechanics. You get to control limbs, like they have you detaching hands and arms and things like that, solving puzzles. And honestly, the visual styling of another Fisherman's Tale looks really, really exciting to me. So I don't know when it's planned to come out. It looks like it's late in development, so I'm hoping it's a 2023, and very much looking forward to playing that.
Do you know what platforms they're releasing? Is it only PSVR? Or?
I believe they're going to do PC VR and PSVR, but I don't have that written in my show notes.
Right.
So if I'm wrong with that, but we know PSVR too, so that's good. It'll sit nicely in there. Maybe it's a timed thing. Right. So there's that. A little bit more dev news. And in the wake of last podcast's obituary section, the Echo VR news that we had, right? We've got developer Lemming VR, who's the creator of Gorilla Tag, who we've had previously on the show, said he's making, I can only assume, a Space Apes game in the wake of Echo VR. On February 17th, Lemming tweeted, "We won't let there be zero G VR sports games. More news about something so cool, I won't be able to not play it. And you can't have anyone better than Homegrown like that, an esports champ himself, to come and make the best next thing." So look forward to that. We've got, I know last podcast was a little bit of a downer on some of this stuff because, we had things shutting down, turning off, going away. We didn't know where things would land with PSVR 2. And coming into this, we've got a little bit of ray of hope at the end of the tunnel. So very happy about that. And speaking about kind of rays of light at the end of a tunnel, it's been some time since I've seen this trick done before. But hey, you're sad at home. All the cool kids are off at the disco, getting high, taking drugs, going to hospital, spending 4 months in rehab, and then doing it all again.
I miss those times.
Excuse me.
The good old days.
But don't worry. Now you nerds could be cool too. Twitter user Show210 posted a light-throbbing video of a disco in the headset with a fully enclosed 3D print job. In the video is a Quest 2 that's been modded for an internal party and lights that reflect a Unity scene. So colored scene reflected in the headset for a bit of an ambient effect, very similar to what Rowdy was saying about Avatar before. I mean, who doesn't want a party, right? Unfortunately, I've heard that this combination has been tested before several times over. I remember seeing it across the years, and apparently let's say the light bouncing around in the headset, especially off Fresnel lenses, is just bad juju, doesn't tend to work very well. But as someone who does have one of those TV displays that, paints light at the back of the television screen, certainly I am keen on something like this. And I've been hearing people quite enjoying the higher nit rate in the PSVR 2, which we'll talk a little bit later on about too. But I don't know, this kind of thing. Are you guys at all ravers, discoers, that type of thing? You into your music and want flashing lights in your face, or does this not excite you?
I mean, I think it's a recipe to go blind, right? You already have a giant LCD pushed up into your face, and now you're going to go over the engineers and say, let me put lights outside of the surface that's supposed to be reflective. So now you're like reflecting raw lights into the lens, bouncing back into your eye. Don't do it. It's a really bad idea. As Sim, as you mentioned, has been tested for a while now. So like maybe that's why my eyes are so messed up. There used to be RGB lighting pads for them. There used to be light effects, light flow. There's a special program called SVP that allowed you to synchronize like up frame videos to like a higher frame rate, but also allowed you to synchronize videos with lights on Windows and on computers. And there was like an Oculus API that this is like almost like 6 years ago that you could like tap into. So when you could watch movies and it would just send RGB strips that you can just put them on your headset to create immersion. But it's just really a bad recipe for your eyes. It's yeah. There's a reason nobody does it. It's bad.
The thing that scared me, like when I was doing my engineering degree, and I noticed what a light emitting diode was, like it's not very far from the cohesive light ray that you get in a handheld laser pointer. It's really not that far off.
Really?
Yeah. So
because I would assume that the light intensity would not be strong enough from.
It is less, and you certainly have varying grades of these, right? I mean, that's the whole point. But the coherence element of it is concerning. I don't know what kind of equipment this guy's, shackled together, but I don't know. I look at those things, and certainly now after 9 years VRing, and with my eyesight degrading just a little bit, it's like, have these years done good or bad things to me? I don't know. It's hard to say,
I really don't think so. Like, I mean, there's probably an effect, but if the effect is too small for it to be measured, it's going to be rough, I think, to say that it's due to VR. There's so many factors impacting your like your eyesight.
And also
screen work, for example.
we also
find out in a couple years.
And it's all about you're secluding those lights that are not designed to be, close to your eyes in a secluded dark area. So now you're kind of using, they're not designed for that. You're putting actual LED strips that are meant to be seen from a distance, which maybe they're not bright enough to hurt your eyes from a distance, but now you got them like right up in your eye. So
yeah,
the
just
plastic,
gotta be careful, right?
Yeah.
With that stuff, I think you do have to be careful, like if you're going to engineer something yourself. But if we think about something that's been like well engineered, take Pimax for example, because that's kind of similar to the trick that we were talking about earlier. That broader experience, that ambience, that light show, so to speak. I'm curious when we get there. You get like proper light levels. You get that feeling of being in there. There's no longer the goggle effect of feeling like you're looking down tunnels or binocular effect. Be interested to see it, but yeah, throwing it together yourself, I'll just thumb up the idea and the concept because it's
Cool story,
I like the kind of mad lad who puts this kind of thing together, right?
It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Palmer Luckey when he put stuff together in his garage for the first DK1.
I'd love to try it.
So
I'd love to try
Same
it.
here.
I'm curious.
Same.
Maybe if there was a way, if you could like tuck them so they're diffused a little more, not so just like lights.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
yeah, and that's the thing. The diffusion layer would save you, I think, in this respect. And that's my only thing is the light needs to be scattered properly to make it safer.
And there's new lights. That's exactly and that's what VR research is so big right now, because there's a lot of people that are pretty much working with LEDs. Like Sony, for example, they patented like organic infrared LED lights for things like that, because to protect the eyesight.
Organic lights?
What's an organic?
Yeah,
I'm like, is this from goats?
It's some
where's this
patent
coming from?
crap. It's some patent crap.
It's like one of those light flies that is just like buzzing around your head.
Buzzing around your eye. It's just buzzing. But it's a weird patent that Sony had a few years ago called IR LED. It was really, I'm pretty sure it was related to early PSVR 2 research, but they were looking into using infrared to have the lights off the sensors bouncing off your eye, essentially recycling the lights. And that actually allowed you to not have like eye strain and things like that. And that's kind of where everybody's going towards it. Everybody's trying to find the reason we're moving away from using eventually these kinds of screens is because they are bad for your eyes. Like don't listen to any VR research that tries, like, I'm a VR guy, I love VR, but it's not rocket science. You're putting a giant bright screen in front of your eyes, so it will hurt your eyes eventually.
Me not to sit in front of the TV screen.
I'm not too convinced on that though. I'd like to see like the actual effect of that, because like when you say like it will damage your eyesight, there's like there's still a difference between like irreparable damage and it being, like it could be that you have more eye fatigue or like, things like that. But just like watching TV a lot, or like even like if you're working on a behind a wall and you don't have a window behind it, that can cause eye fatigue because your eyes are always fixated on the same distance. So if you get like, varying kind of degrees, you look around, like if you use it a couple of hours a day or whatever, I don't think that is going to be really damaging for your eyes. But of course, everything in moderation, they say, right? Yeah. And otherwise, I'd like to...
that's the moderation part. We have people that are sleeping in 1,000 nit brightness headsets. That's the people I'm talking about. I have a list of a lot of people I know that sleep in VR, and I'm keeping that list because I really want to see how their eyesight is in about 35 years. List. Oh yeah, dude. I can't wait.
No, but seriously, Adam used the term, right? Patient zero. Like there are plenty of patient zeros who clock way more hours than, any of us do in VR. And it's like, we need to just watch them. Like, if they're the lemmings falling off the cliff? Sorry, this is
wow.
It's like, all right, maybe I should take this thing off now, before I jump off the cliff.
Or plot twist, they figure out something before us. They start seeing in like 4D all of a sudden. Like they wake up one day and they're like, I can see the simulation lines. That's
I just like where this is all going. I like that people still tinker with their headsets. They don't just take what's given to them and accept that as that's good enough. I really, really like this kind of workshop idea. So let's move on to the next crazy idea about modding. So if that one's not crazy enough, and with the PSVR 2 just around the corner, people were getting a little ballsy, going to the garages and getting out the hammer drill. They looked forlorn at their overheating Quest 2s, recalled a special episode of The Simpsons, which had speed holes in it, and decided it was time to get to work. That's right. I'm talking to you, Apache from Reddit, who decided to create Frankenstein's monster and call it the OcuFlow 3000. Now, normally, I'm one of those guys who really doesn't like home DIY jobs on headsets. And if it was a Meta-branded headset, I'd be totally fine. But they did this to an Oculus, a timepiece, a relic, a cherished, clearly they're insane, right? They're insane. But that's Reddit, and I love the internet. So what they've done is they've perforated the faceplate of the Quest with about I think it's about 15, 16 holes, okay, in a kind of a triangular pattern on the sides. They've carved out 2 giant notches in the top of the headset as well to apparently help with heating issues. So Rowdy's taking the audience through 3 different images. First, it was a reflection of the speed hole episode from The Simpsons, where they're taking a pitchfork and jamming it through the hood of Homer's car to make it go faster. The second one is a dude who's got a drill menacingly dangling in front of a Quest 2. And the third and final image is one of this literally destroyed faceplate of a Quest 2, an original Oculus Quest 2, with all these holes cut out. And the best part about the Reddit post is there's an engineer who pipes up and basically says, oh, I'm an engineer, and when you allow dust to enter the headset, that dust is going to rest on the devices. You don't know what that's going to do. Also, by changing the head flow of the design, you might actually be robbing airflow from pieces that normally get it with the standard flow. So again, it's one of those things of, yeah, it might look cool and might be fun, and hey, if you're going to be potentially junking the headset anyway, hey, have a go at it, right? Who cares? But I just love sharing with you these crazy headsets and what people have done to their products. Yeah. What were you saying, Adam? It looks cool?
No, does it look cool? Like the holes aren't even, maybe if it was like really like
meticulously done,
not even lined up. It just looks like someone just, I don't know. It's awful.
Make the sound effect again, please.
Yeah, that was a great sound effect.
Like they're not lined up or anything. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a triangle, but
yeah,
I guess
it's kind of not to. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, especially. Wait, let me see if I can zoom in.
It's like a triangle with a dip in it on the left one. I mean, I don't know.
It looks a bit off here.
Has the original modder responded about temperatures? Like, has it increased? Has it?
I didn't see that in the comments. I mean, Rowdy, you can take a browse if you're on the page, but I saw a lot of people really throwing hate at this person. Like, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah,
that is not the point of me featuring this. I like the crazy internet, and I like to embrace, like I said with the previous project, what it is, like the extent to which the internet goes. I absolutely love that, and I just thought, look, for something like this, we've all been there. I was there with my Go. I remember I used to, for live streams where my Oculus Go would have 40 minutes of gameplay and then conk out because it had a passive heatsink on the front. And so it was requiring just ambient air OcuFlow to take the heat away. It didn't have a fan on board at all, which did not work. And so I'd be playing poker with people and they'd, just drop out in the middle of a hand because their go had got out. And you would literally be making bets. Like if someone thought their headset was getting a bit hot, because you're like, he's going to drop out and I'm going to win this hand. I'm telling you, it's a different era to the internet. Now, I haven't personally experienced any Quest 2 overheating problems, not once. And I don't know anyone who has. And from the long amount of comments, it seems most people don't. But hey, if you do, maybe don't get your drill out. And if you do decide to drill it, please don't drill it while it's on your face. That could end poorly.
I mean, I guess it's your money. Do what you want with it.
You can literally just Google heat maps of the Quest 2. The front part of the headset's the coolest part of the headset. So you did nothing.
Don't give him any IDs, Jose. Like he's going to be drilling on the sides.
So what you do is you see there's two sharp windows inside the headset. You want to go straight through the center. Okay. That's the hottest part.
Don't give him any IDs.
that would allow the light to actually go through the screen better. You're going to be able to see just all light. That's all you'll be able to see.
Oh, geez.
Don't do this at home. Don't try this at home.
Yes. Do not do this at home. No.
Yeah. We'll post it on Reddit if you do. Exactly.
Yeah. If we're learning anything from these, post to Reddit more frequently your crazy projects, please. Thank you.
But don't.
All right. Speaking of crazy, all right, Andrew Bosworth, or Boz, the Meta CTO, posted a Twitter update about making hands in VR a more complete and versatile interaction system. We spoke about this a little bit on the last podcast, about how they're hoping to bring in the ability to like poke and drag with your finger in space. Honestly, ever since Mark Zuckerberg said this to an audience in San Jose at Oculus Connect, I thought it was a bit of a long shot. Making your hands the ubiquitous controller. They've been making some way with it. The new interface that they're showing, and they showed off on Twitter, looks a little bit rough, but they're trying, and they open sourced it to allow devs to check out via an SDK that they can toy with, and that's generally ends well. But honestly, to me, and again, knowing Meta, the copycat artist that they are, it kind of looks like they took the idea just straight out of Rogue Ascent. You guys know Rogue Ascent VR, the one where you're able to use your hands as like finger guns and teleport around the level. It looks like they just lifted that dev's ideas and decided to, now's the time we can go and do this. So I'm always a little bit leery-eyed when it comes to Meta and new technology, because oftentimes I find it's somebody else's. But we're going to watch this, see if we can kind of get hands-on. I'm curious with you guys seeing the video here that's playing, or maybe you saw it earlier on Reddit. What are your thoughts on hand-driven teleport locomotion?
Depends on the experience.
There's been a couple of games that have had it. Like I've seen different formats where, what was that one that everyone's done? Usually you get to the hand and you get tentacles that come out. It's a classic. It's like you're like an apprentice of a sorceress. It's like a
Elixir.
Elixir, yes. That's some kind of magic name. There's like
for a
that
second
one.
there, I was wondering, Adam. I was really wondering.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Everyone has done the one with the tentacles, Okay.
Not publicly.
We allowed to say this on here?
But there was that one. That one had I think it was like the pinch teleport, right, to get to different type. And then there's also there was one I played at PAX. I don't think it's even come out yet. It's a horror story game, and you had a compass in your hand, and in order to go forward, you would kind of like squeeze the compass back, and that would kind of scoot you forward. So you're right in that I've kind of seen some of these already, and I don't know how original it is, or like if they've talked to developers and they're like, hey, this is a great idea. I kind of doubt it, but it's interesting. I don't know though. It's a weird, or even what you call it, like Aeolia, where you have a compass and you're sort of what is it? I can't think of the full name. It's one of those that has like a different, like multiple subtitles to the title, but
don't worry about it. We know the one you mean.
Yeah. Rhythm of the Universe. They've got a compass, and that's how it's a literal compass, and you can actually treat that compass sort of like a WASD system. So you can move this way, turn that way. It's like smooth. That's how you can do smooth turn with hand tracking. That was kind of interesting. It's hard though, because if you want to look and not have your hand in the sensors, and you're like, I got to kind of like look at my hand a little more. But I don't know. I gave them praise for at least being creative and coming up with some sort of a solution, because otherwise you don't really have.
That's the thing.
Much.
That's for me the thing as well. Like Is this better than what we currently have with controllers? Probably not. Like I don't think so. And that the reason for that is because, we've had years and years and years of optimization and engineering and trying to fix problems and getting an optimal solution for doing locomotion in games. And, the controllers that we have now are the end result of that. And I don't think that, a single update or a single new technology is going to, punch that aside. And up until we get to real locomotion systems that try to simulate what we do with walking, but we're not there yet. But it is creative, it's something else, it's something different, willing to give it a shot. But I think my expectations of this is it's not going to replace regular locomotion for sure.
I feel like we're going to leapfrog this. It really does feel like they're kind of putting the feelers out. Everyone's trying to design their solution. Like before, people were accustomed to smooth locomotion when they were doing teleport and various different types of locomotion. I feel like that's now dominant from what I've seen on various polls taken. Mm-hmm. That's irked ahead now over the last couple of years. But now it's really this question of what do you do? How do you do in that concept of I've got a headset, I've got hand tracking. How am I going to move around?
But still, it depends a lot on the game, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
there's other games that are out there, even on flat screen. If you think about Dishonored, that uses a blink system of locomotion, right? And it's an awesome kind of thing. And I think for certain games that works really well. I'm thinking, for example, Sirento, where you had that I still think that locomotion system was awesome.
Sirento was so cool
because you would be sprinting and running up walls and doing all these crazy flips and stuff like that. And Mirror's Edge is another one, locomotion can be so typical for a specific game that I don't think we can get a universal locomotion system that will work for every single game in VR, because it depends a little bit on the game that you're playing.
That's why VR is so difficult to develop, because you have to rethink not just the mechanics, but also how the mechanics interact with the world. And that's exactly what I was going to add. I feel that right now everybody's trying to apply two-dimensional development theory of a 3D world in the 2D-dimensional space, in a 3D world in a 3-dimensional space, which is almost sounds similar, but they're completely different. And that goes all the way down to hand tracking. The idea of using your hands to interact in a world sounds really cool, but when you think about it, you're grabbing things. So now you're simulating your hands to navigate the world, but now you're grabbing a physical object in the world. You just broke the entire mechanic. So I agree with Rowdy. Go with the controller option. Now you're grabbing to, so the immersion is there. The hand is what needs immersion, not air that your hand surrounds itself in. Right. Yeah. It's very interesting that you're bringing this up, and I wanna. It goes all the way back to just controllers. I feel that applies to even spatial audio. I feel that if you create experiences that are actually tailored to the inputs that you have, instead of having the world interact with you, you get better mechanics. The ones that you mentioned, Sirento, Dishonored, they're using how you visually see locomotion. So do the same thing in VR and use the controllers. Take advantage of that.
It's really interesting, because I feel like it's not a solution that us as gamers will benefit much from.
Yep.
I think it will benefit the casual user and applications that require minimal locomotion. And the ease of use of hands as trackers, as hands as an object that then you can use. I still love the stuff that the ease of use of picking up a quest and being able to click my way through a menu without having to pick up the controllers first. I find that really, really helpful. So keen to see where this one goes. But I had a theory, and I feel like I know what Meta's up to. They're putting hands into VR so they can reach around and grab my wallet. And on that note, if you didn't see it, Facebook and Meta have announced that they're copying yet another idea, this time from Musk. Now Facebook has a blue tick mark to make yourself feel good about yourself, and that'll only cost you 12 God-loving American dollars a month, or 15 on iOS. Meta Verified is rolling to Australia and New Zealand this week. They're obviously putting it on a far distant land so that if it really blows up bad in their face, they don't screw up the rest of their markets.
It takes a long time for the news to reach back here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so shocked. They actually got like PlayStation stuff on time. I couldn't believe it. They usually get shafted when it comes to releases. I feel you, my brothers and sisters out there. And what do you call that? Oceania or something? What do you call like Australia and New Zealand all together?
Oceania.
Oceania? There's something like that. There's some fancy name for it. But what does it do? This verifies, so you can verify your account using a government ID. I thought Facebook already kind of enforced that.
You have to do that.
You get a blue badge. Yay. You get extra protection against accounts claiming to be you. Rowdy has that problem all the time. And you also get customer support. It's like, what?
With Facebook.
That's
you're harvesting
really,
my data. You're making money off of me. And then you're going to pay me a service fee for me to be able to get any customer support? Oh, Lord, I pray for us. I really do, as a society. I do. But thankfully, this is FReality, and we like to block the system, to rage against the machine and take the power back. That's right.
Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That sucks because like I almost like this, man. And I when you said that, I was like, oh no. It sucks because I try to look at things like I try to be like a devil's advocate, especially when people big businesses like this make dumb ideas or dumb decisions. I just saw somebody hack their own bank account using AI voice password. It's going to get hairy, especially with impersonating. I ran a headset giveaway during the holidays for my company. And there was 5 accounts replicating the giveaway that I had to report. It was almost like there were spam bots waiting for the word giveaway, and all of a sudden they recreated the same account, the same giveaway, the same messaging in order to try to scam. So I was actively reporting accounts. So it makes sense, and also the access to like I know so many people, and I don't mean to like toot my own horn, but I know people that are quote unquote influencers that have the verified gold check mark and all that, and they have gotten their accounts hacked multiple times. And they have a rough time trying to get to customer support with Instagram and Meta. These companies are so large, and unfortunately, they deal with this so frequently that now that the AI revolution is here, they're going to deal with this times a million. So they're going to have human employees now. It's over. They need humans now to get salaries to get that phone call, to get that customer support. It sucks that we're now seeing social media going into an actual business, but that's the result of AI, right? Yeah. Now we're going to need, this is going to happen everywhere. I see anything that requires subscription that's very low, under $20, is going to just go up in pricing. It sucks.
We've got an interesting future headed our way. Blue ticks are all abound.
Why do you want them?
Why would I? Mark is going to become a real check mark.
What did you like about this, Jose? Like, what you started off saying that you were kind of playing devil's advocate here, and you I
like it. I have influencers.
What were the elements? What were the elements?
Your account gets hacked. You get remote phone number. You can immediately call and say, "Hey, I'm a verified account. I have 5 million subscribers." A fake post using my name and information being blown out to 5 million accounts can be detrimental. Imagine a president or somebody, a political leader. There has to be now human resources for that. So they have to build it. That's exactly what Twitter's doing. Twitter realized, hey, we're going to go AI. There's going to be AIs that figure our systems out. We're going to need humans now.
Have you ever dealt with customer service of big companies? Like, for example, my whole life. and how has that experience been? Do you usually get someone on the line who can immediately help you?
No.
Because I don't think this is gonna solve that.
Instagram notoriously has a phone number for emergency for artists with people with verified accounts. It almost takes 72 hours to get.
I need to give you, Jose, a tip I got from a comedian. This is for everybody, but Jose, because he might have a leg up on the rest of us. I heard this yesterday and I thought it was hilarious. He said the way to deal with waiting queues for customer service is learn Spanish, because the primary servicing line is English, right? But if you say para español, you press dos, and you get in through there, boom, you get a multilingual speaker who speaks Spanish, and they're ready to serve you. So like, I know that probably won't work in practice, but I'd be curious to know if someone's able to do it.
That's exactly what happens. It's a Comcast was the one that kind of proved that you cannot automate so much. And in fact, they doubled down. They were like, okay, since all of our customer service is automated, they started creating scripts. So now there's companies that are making APIs to like send commands. That's how websites work. Like if you pay your bill online, that's the same exact customer service system that you're connecting into.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and it's all again, like what Rowdy says, right? The automation side of this is happening. And so you're going, oh, there's a bot here, and I put a bot here. But on our side, like, why should I sit there and phone in? Why couldn't I? If I was Rowdy, I'd make it so GPT, here's the voice engine, sounds like me. You make the phone call on my behalf. Tell me when it's done. You know what I mean? So it's going to be bots versus bots.
I had a, I forget what the service is called, but it was a bot that would fight your phone bills for you. So if it was too high, you would you would just have this bot go talk to their bot, and then you would haggle a price, and you'd just be like, cool, I guess I have less on my phone bill now, or whatever bill. There were multiple types of bills you could have it argue.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
it's
it's
so
like
good. It's pay my bill. It does it for Comcast. It literally always gets you a $10 discount every time. It just goes into it, starts chatting, tells them the issues, and you're good to go. And that's
I need the name of that service.
Yes.
Definitely. That sounds. Please, chat, if you recognize what Adam's just described, please put it in chat. I'd like to know about this.
Too. Write it down.
This is probably a good time for me to quote Tyler Durden from Fight Club. He said, "It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything." And God, I love that character. I mean, Brad Pitt had me at hello. You know what I mean? That guy. I need to go back and watch that film now. But if, like Tyler, you're a bit of a free thinker, then maybe you're only one crunch away from living in the shoes of Ozzy Osbourne. And speaking of Ozzy, we had a feature of the Osbournes just recently. It's really fun, kind of fun rock out advert that Sony pulled off for PSVR 2. And if you've not seen it, it's basically a small domestic that's happening. Ozzy's playing with Call of the Mountain, the new Horizon game, and flagship seller for PSVR 2. And his wife Sharon is pulling him, saying they've got to get on a plane. Fast forward a few seconds, and he's left all alone at home in a dark room with nothing but a television screen and him flailing while taking on one of the Horizon's largest predators, the aerial Stormbird. In short, I think this is just Sony nailing it. The ad comes off really well. And it's honestly just so badass to see like an age-old rocker like Ozzy that he's still got it, you know. And the timing of this, couldn't have been better. Do you guys see this ad?
No, I only saw it now, but what I found hilarious is that when his wife came in, I don't know if you saw the plushie toy that she was carrying, but it was a bat. Right?
It was a bat.
And you know the story about Ozzy Osbourne and the bat, right? Where he like someone he thought that someone like threw something on the stage and he bit it off, but apparently it was a bat who like fell down somewhere and he took it and he bit the head of it. So it's like it's funny that they're still like going on with that. It's like
what is going on with people trying to show VR in advertisements, and they always do like this weird spin in their chair, like whoa. Like that whole entire thing. I to be quite honest, I'm the wrong demographic. I like my 80s rock, Bat Out of Hell, all that, but it wasn't for me, man. Like I saw that and I was like, what is this for? Like Gen Z or for the AARP? I don't know. Like I really didn't get it, man.
We are seeing a funny trend here. If you remember last podcast, now I know Adam wasn't here for that, but look at the contrast here, right? On one side, we've got Meta, who's got Martha Stewart flogging virtual Oreo cookies in Horizon, while Sony has Ozzy pulling his gamer card out, missing his flight and doing nothing but playing PSVR 2. I mean, between those two anyway, I can tell you who's winning Marketing Department of the Year. But it is funny. They seem to be going after very well-known, aged individuals to help flog and represent to, I'm guessing, people who will be recognized and have money. I think that's what they're targeting. I don't think they're targeting 16-year-olds. I think they're targeting, 40, 50-year-olds who've got the cash and can spend $1,000.
And that's unfortunate because those are not the ones that have the $1,000 in their bank accounts. The ones that are going to spend $1,000 in their bank accounts are the teenagers, are the ones that want to escape reality. What? You're talking to 80-year-olds that have been working their whole lives and they're now entering retirement, and they're going to see more of the world. They're not going to want to sit down and go, woo! No, that
Wait.
Ozzy is
Wait,
somewhere.
what?
Ozzy's enjoying the world. He's in paradise. This guy's been on tour. He is not sitting down on his couch going in circles. I don't think that we're targeting the older generations for a modern console is a way to go. It worked for the Wii, and I feel like all these, like the Wii revolution or the Nintendo Wii taking over with the Wii bowling and all the senior citizens playing that because all you had to do was.
But that's not what this ad is doing. Like Ozzy Osbourne does not identify with an older generation.
Absolutely
no,
is.
no,
Come on.
100%.
It was
not.
old people. This was supposed to make. This was supposed to make the 45 to 50 the people who are starting to feel 40 to go like. I could be a cool gamer, but that's
how I view this, Jose. We see this so differently, I think, because to me, they're basically saying like you're talking about a world where 16 to 25-year-olds have a grand sitting around that they can spend. I don't think right now your average 25-year-old has that necessarily to decide. A lot of people are actually quite strapped just because of the last couple of years.
Exactly.
The difficulty of coming out of university and trying to land a job anywhere in this new environment is a real challenge. And so that's why I think companies have looked at the data and decided we're going to shift upwards 20 years. And I think that's why you're seeing the big players change their target demographic. And like you were saying, I think it's I don't know if it would be 35 to 55 range, but like that, it seems to be what they're targeting. And so sorry, Rowdy, you were trying to say something there, but what's your take on this and who they're going after?
I don't think
money-wise?
that like Ozzy Osbourne. I don't identify him with like an old generation. Like I don't think he is like
geriatrics.
Yeah, no, like
you guys have a wake up call coming in.
No, I think Ozzy Osbourne is like, especially like, I think he's more in the like between 30 to 50 range. I think that is the target audience that you have. People with money. Yeah, people who have often like like a little bit of more time maybe because they're like they're working on their careers and they got something else going on. I think
the ones without time, exactly. They're
no,
not
I don't. I mean, I'm in that range. I don't think that I'm without time. Mm-hmm. I think you have more time in a way to do things that you want to do rather than you have to spend time on things that you don't want to do. I mean, you have less time in general.
I understand the business perspective. I understand the business mentality. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the adoption and you look at the user bases, the larger number bases are the kids. Gorilla Tag. Gorilla Tag.
I 100% agree. But they got those.
Make a clone and
but
people
they got
are freaking
those.
out.
They got those already. Like I don't think that's the issue. I think that they want to say here, it's not only for the kids. Like they're targeting here.
Yeah, that's the point.
They're targeting here my generation, basically. That's what they're doing.
And that's what I mean.
Adam,
if you
inspire,
I go to chat, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say before I go to chat, I want to hear Adam's take on this.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm the youngest one here. I'm gonna state my age, which is 31, and like I know who Ozzy Osbourne is, and I mean, I would say he was more of like my dad's generation. My dad liked him more, but he's pop culture. Even if you weren't familiar with him, there's the Osbournes. There's the whole MTV era, so 90s kids.
He's done with two generations, right? It's your dad's generation, but then he also had an entire series with the Osbournes, where a lot of people know him from. They didn't know he was a rock star before that. It's just this crazy dude on a reality show.
No, I agree, and that. Go ahead.
I think I'm leaning more on the side of they are targeting people who probably do have more of a expendable income and more time. Kind of like Rowdy was saying, when you're younger, you're like trying to figure out, you're being either forced into college or you're forced into like, how am I going to make money for college, or what am I going to do as an adult? And so you don't really have a lot of either time or money. But when you're targeting sort of the Osbourne family era and Ozzy Osbourne, the artist eras, those are the kind of generations
people in the midlife crisis. They buy a Porsche, they buy like a bike, they go like take airplane classes, whatever it is. Like this is the people that they're targeting.
and that's exactly my point. Is that kids don't care about the living on the other side, that the grass is greener. The people that adopt the technology are the ones that are looking for escapism. If you think about advertising for video games or for consoles, like all the way going up to the early 90s, it was like a weird baby floating on the wall. It was all about being weird. And now all of a sudden the tone has shifted yes, you're absolutely correct. For the moneymakers, for having the Martha Stewarts, the Ozzy Osbournes, as a consumer, that doesn't connect with younger audiences at all. You're telling a kid to be an old man, like that is.
But that's what I'm
so
saying. Like
weird.
this ad is not targeted at kids.
You have to,
look at him.
bro. You have to look.
Right
I know it sucks, but you have to look at the people that are actually playing VR. The ones that are like, if you go on #VR and you go all the way up to the new, not the trending. Wait,
here. Like the thing is, I completely agree with you. You know, like they have like their main target audience is that younger generation. That is also why when they're paying influencers to show off VR, they don't pay VR influencers. They pay the people on TikTok. They pay the people on like Instagram, Paris Hilton, whatever it is. Like they're the ones who are getting the VR headsets and getting sponsorships. They have that covered. This is an ad that is targeting another population, another target group, and that is what they're doing.
I agree with that.
And
it's dumb.
I don't
it's a shift. Do you guys recognize that? Like,
yes.
up through VR so far, like we have not been targeting that generation before. Like this year, I haven't felt that at all. And now all of a sudden, it's like this paradigm shift where they're like, where are we going to get money so that we can, as a company, thrive or survive? Right?
And you convince the kids to tell their parents to buy them the headsets. You tell them, hey, this is the best affordable VR you can get.
But they're already doing that.
They used to do that. That's a very 90s way of thinking. And I just, sorry, Adam, I come to you in just a second. What I'm seeing here, right? Aside from last podcast's Echo players and this podcast's, I'm going to call you all geriatrics. I'm just going to say, don't walk alone, Jose, because someone's going to grab you.
Oh, I know. Hey, anyway. Listen, if they can catch me, you know, go ahead, man. Like, listen, I mean it. I know who Ozzy Osbourne is. I respect him. I love the Osbournes. I watch all the shows.
But think of it this way. Think of it this way. They're already targeting the kids with the influencers showing it off. And the kids are going to the parents now like, oh, I want this headset. And the dads are going, nah, this, like, I'm not going to invest this. You don't need that. But then the dad sees Ozzy Osbourne play and it's like, oh man, if Ozzy Osbourne loves it, you know, like, I'm going to, like, the kid wants it. I want it now too. Let's go and get it. That's the thought
process. Go on the YouTube comments for the Ozzy Osbourne PSVR 2 commercial. Go to the YouTube comments of the Ozzy Osbourne and go on the TikTok comments. And then you will understand where I'm coming from. The world has changed.
Is a kid going to look at the Ozzy Osbourne commercial and be like, oh, I don't want a PSVR 2 anymore?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't.
Unfortunately,
YouTube comments are separate from, like, that's like the scum of the earth. No offense to everyone who
those
comments
are the ones
on
that convince their parents. Those are the ones that convince their parents.
But the kids are already convinced.
A reasonable adult is not going to spend $1,000. It's not. He's not. It's the truth. I know it sucks that we want to be advertised to. Yeah.
Is not going to spend. I'm trying to unpack that because I'm definitely that guy.
Yeah, because
a reasonable adult would not spend $1,000 on a VR headset.
No.
For a mind-blowing experience like a kayak or a Resident Evil or a GT7.
Who usually convinces you that it's a mind-blowing experience? The kids.
So I don't have kids.
The kids go crazy. The ads.
I would say an ad or a friend.
Yeah.
An ad or a friend who I'm speaking to are the people who drive my decisions, typically. I know what you're saying. Okay, hang on. Now, this is time to have chat have a little bit. I need to call out some of the chat here because everyone was getting real excited in chat, and I love it. And I love that people are out here, like, posting their ages. I'm 96, and this is my opinion. So let's just go through a couple of these, okay? So I'm going to call them out. What do we got? Secrets of says, my 85-year-old dad loves VR. Sampler 19 says, I hear from so many 40 to 60-year-old gamers getting the PSVR 2. Right demographic. Arcane Mage says, as a very nearly 50-year-old who has the money to have purchased a PSVR 2, I enjoyed Ozzy's music back in the day and was vaguely amused by the ad. Shrugging after that. Crash said 40 to 50. Boy, we were playing games before you were born. Yeah.
All right, Kratos.
The secret said, I'm 52 and I have 6 grandkids, 5 kids. I have very little time. What I do have is in VR. That's very good. I like that perspective.
Forget the grandkids, VR. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing.
We got a lot of people here jumping in, talking about this. I know D1360 said genius marketing. Look, the thing I like about this is that it's at least a different flavor. I really like to see companies not just doing the same thing. We saw this around the turn of the millennium as well. where, if you remember, it was always the cool kid with the Super Soaker or the Sega or whatever. And it was always like, let me show you an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old just having a killer time, to Jose's point. So that kid can drag on the parent's purse and be like, buy me this cool thing, and nag and nag and nag until they're able to convince their parent, or I don't know, work up their allowance and go buy one, whatever the case may be in your house structure, right? But this is such a change. It really is. And the one thing I would say is, another thing that I'm seeing a huge disparity on, and we'll come to this a bit later when we talk about the state of play, is the difference between like chat and comments and reality and purchases. And I see those two things as just like social media, where social media is dividing people. I feel like the reality of people's reactions, and yes, they're real reactions, but the reactions of action versus reaction, like what I do versus what I say, really disparate. The same is true in our chat, you know, with things that people say versus what they then end up doing or whatever. So
overall, I see positive reactions on the video. Like I never thought I'd see the day where Ozzy is wearing a PSVR headset. Brilliant. Whoever let this happen, give him a promotion. Seeing Ozzy makes me very happy. Long live the Prince of Darkness. Sony picked the right person to do this. Ozzy is killing it. Respect for Ozzy Osbourne. This is the best Sony ad ever. Ozzy plus Sony, pure awesomeness. Ozzy never disappoints. He has a natural talent for everything. So
that head.
I mean, I love Ozzy Osbourne, but what?
Well, wait, Rowdy.
All he did was wear a headset and go. Like that's all he did.
But that's what he did in the series as well.
I love Ozzy Osbourne. I love Ozzy. You know, glory to Ozzy. But come on, guys. You're telling yourself like the comments versus reality.
Well, the ad clearly works because people are talking about it. This. Right? The ad clearly works because, I mean, we've been talking about it for the past 25 minutes. The chat is talking about it. Everybody seems to be talking about it. So that works. People are talking about the headset. People are talking about Ozzy.
That's what I thought. Is he actually playing VR? Is he pretending to play VR?
Of course.
That's what I will say that part bothers me a bit because you can tell. I mean, I know that they have to probably do that because it's easiest. So his reactions aren't genuine because like what you're seeing on the so that
have you ever seen the Osbournes? None of his reactions there are genuine.
I saw nothing genuine from it. All I saw was we're targeting old people and we got a well-known old person. That's really what I saw. I wish no disrespect to Ozzy. I love Ozzy, but I'm just keeping it honest. Like that was my first thought is he's not playing VR. Is he using prescription lenses behind it? Like I really was. I'm being honest. Like
no,
if I'm
like
about that,
this felt like an episode of the Osbournes.
What is traditional?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it came off to me. It came off as a kind of a social episode, and it's really funny to me to hear how we're so disparate in our opinion on this. Yeah. Like I feel like Jose dialed this in and he just saw an episode of Murder, She Wrote. Or something.
Literally, I was watching like, man. I was like, what is this? I didn't feel. Maybe that's what it is. Just the cultural disconnect. Maybe was just too impactful because I doubt it. I love Ozzy. I've seen the Osbournes. It's just. It felt weird. It felt, and maybe that's what it was such a dramatic shift. Yeah. It felt like a smack almost. Yeah.
This is one of those things. Like, I like that these are divisive. I like that our opinions aren't the same. You guys know I love that. I think that's the best thing on the planet, right? Like if we were all the same opinion, this would be stupid. Like this wouldn't be a podcast. You wouldn't tune into it.
But that's right. Shaggy says he had a huge Super Bowl commercial as well. So it's this year. Yeah, I don't know when that was that he had that commercial. I remember seeing that though. But like that's the thing. Like he does this kind of thing, and it's all awkward and it's all weird because it's like in that Osbourne kind of feeling. But that works. That works because that's what people are used to seeing from him. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, okay. Anyway. If you guys want somebody to pretend that he's playing a game, listen.
So anyway, so that's one thing. I think to me, it's just about the whole lineup of what Sony had planned and then came to release. We talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but I'm really impressed at what they brought to us in terms of like the hit marks. Like every second day, I felt like we had another announcement. And let's get into that a little bit. So I mean, now that all of that bludgeoning is said and done. I did want to give a quick reminder to people who might be fans of Horizon, the game that was being promoted after all. The second flat game, Horizon Forbidden West, is available on PS Plus now, and it's available. If you haven't caught up with the series, go play it. It's an awesome series, one of my all-time favorites now. Since last year, just got into that. I know Adam's a big fan as well. And I'm planning to play that game, Forbidden West, now that they've saved me $50. I'm going to go play that cinematic mode in my PSVR 2 headset because I think that's just a cool way to experience the game. And, I don't have to use a mod or something like that or wait for somebody else, but jump into that when I'm done playing my 20 hours of Horizon. So with that all done, let's hear if the headset's any bloody good. And then we'll get into this tidal wave of recent PSVR 2 related news. And for this part, I'm going to hand it off to Adam.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess I'll give my general thoughts first on the PSVR 2. Yeah, before we go into the games, because hold on to your butts. There's a lot. I'll admit that I spent a lot of my time first with the PSVR 2, just like learning everything there is on how to record, because it's kind of what I do. Is I do tutorials for people, and so both the built-in PlayStation recording as well as using a capture card method. But I did get some game time in. I will say that it seems like the spectator view of PlayStation VR 2 seems to favor the left eye. And it doesn't, so far, there's not really any settings to make it special. Like you can't switch between eye prioritization, and there's no stabilizer of any kind. So you're just going to, noodle neck it.
I've on Reddit seen a solution to that, which is a kind of a fat, it appears like a fat border on TV. I have it noted for myself. I'm in the unfortunate position of having not yet opened mine, but I will share that with you later, because I've seen a few creators using what I think is a solution to the eyedness of the frame, but it's basically it puts a kind of what appears to be some kind of border. Either that or people are tricking it.
It's like a gray PlayStation border. Yeah,
right.
Was that supposed to help
with
the
X's
tracking?
and O's.
I thought more.
But what it ends up doing, I think, is it ends up centering the image to some extent. That's what I was reading. So I haven't tested this myself, but if that option helps you out, then great.
For the feed.
More science
because one
to
of the
do.
things we have on other headsets, right? I mean, on the Index, on Quest, you do have things that do kind of smoothing of the frame, and you tend to have either an interpolated scene which will mash like left and right eyes and have a bit of a blind spot in the middle, like I think what you have on Index and Steam VR by default, or on Quest you can control that through the Oculus Mirror, and actually they brought in stabilization tools, and now even on Quest you have on the headset the ability to motion smooth, which is kind of neat. It also takes a bit of the horsepower of the Quest to be able to do it, so you do lose some things, but yeah, those things are out there as tools, and absolutely Sony should be, if they're not yet perfect, be working to engineer those solutions out. So it's interesting that you've seen that. Did your headset show up on time and all that? Everything went well with the order?
Luckily, it did. It came around like 5 o'clock my time on the 22nd, and I was, looking out the window the whole time, like, hey, come on, get here. But my other experiences with it, like, otherwise, setup is so easy. I wish that all headsets made, setting up the Guardian. Even the eye tracking was pretty easy. Although I will say probably one or two of my biggest gripes is the sweet spot. I have a very hard time trying to get the sweet spot. It almost feels like it's up a little, so my eyes are looking this way, but I kind of up here is where it's not blurry. And so it's a lot of the headset's also very comfortable to me. It's very light. It almost feels suspiciously light, like I'm gonna break it at some point. But it's a lot of like, okay, now I'm gonna push the front part forward, maybe try that, and then I'll adjust the back again, and I'm just going like, and then God forbid you put a headset on, because you're not going to use those crappy, no offense if anyone uses them, but the crappy little earbuds that they come with, and then that shifts the headset again, so now you have to shift everything to compensate for that thing that you put on. So I think that's the most annoying part, is like once I find that sweet spot, I really have to okay, be careful and don't move too much, even though you're in VR.
My knee-jerk reaction to that remark is, maybe Nathan was right about the comment that he wasn't wearing the headset right or something. So are you finding you're having to wear it in a way that doesn't feel natural?
I feel like I can't adjust it to where I want to because I want to push it down more so that the sweet because the sweet spot seems, like I said, higher, but it won't really, because you can only push the front closer to your face and then the back just tightens the strap, but there's no real way to like lower or raise the front part. So I feel like I have to mash it down sometimes, but I don't want to like also break it. But I will say
drill some holes in there, like so that
the next step, right? But I do like the face gasket is okay, but I do like the light blockers. The light blockers they work very well. Like, once you put that on, like, I almost have too hard of a time because I'm used to cheating to look at my computer and look down the nose. You can't do that. I mean, you could probably move the thing around.
I'm missing something here. So when you say the light blockers, I thought the face gasket, the facial interface, is fixed in place. It doesn't go anywhere. Or are you saying when you move it back against your face?
No, it's like what's that? It's like that rubbery material that's part of the. Like, it's not a gasket. I don't know why I use gasket. Yeah. It is fixed, but
whatever.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. The pleathery, leathery sort of material that's part of it covers. It sucks. It like attaches to at least my face very well, where I can't see out of the left. No light bleed out of the left or the right or from my nose, and that was really nice, especially because you got the OLED lenses, so everything looks nice and dark and. Nice and
slap
bright.
Some LED strips in there.
Right? Get it going, banging, let's why ruin a good thing? Like that part of the PlayStation I really like. I don't want to. That's why. But
okay, so far you're saying basically the setup experience has been relatively easy to get into the headset tuned, except for the sweet spot.
Yeah,
and the comfort is good and it's light. Does it feel kind of frail like the first headset did? Did you own a PSVR one?
I did not. I will say it feels. Yeah, like I am worried about setting it down too hard. Like I'm like my poor index. I've been rough with the thing. It's been battered and dropped on accident or just fallen off of things. I don't know if the PlayStation. I feel like it wouldn't be able to handle it. I don't want to test it. Obviously, sorry, I don't have that much money. I don't have two headsets that.
Time will tell.
But
wasn't it the first? Was it the first or second episode when we had the Crew V2 assembled where? Was it your index controller? You'd broken something, I remember, and you were trying to MacGyver it back together. I think it was an index controller. Didn't you smash it open or?
Oh yeah, that was when I was playing Bone Lab, and I had a stool behind me because I like to lean on it sometimes, and I was trying to climb, and when I overcompensated for jumping up on the ledge, the trigger just smashed right on the back of the stool. But it's okay, it's fine though. I super glued it, and now it's all been good.
Not a gentle lass. We will learn in time what she does to this headset. Okay, got that. And I'm curious, just before we move into like the, software and all the rest you're talking about, but like for Jose, what about you? What was your experience like in terms of the same things Adam has?
Yeah, funny enough, I agree with everything you're saying. I had a lot of weird issues trying to get the PSVR 2 like properly fixed. So I had to like make a ponytail at a specific spot to kind of hold the headset in, which kind of now is like the perfect go-to for me. But I did notice that there's like a weird, if you have to find that sweet spot and almost kind of like muscle memory remember how to put it on. Another thing that I came across was Sony's decision with the earbuds. I'm willing to say this. I think earbuds are much better than spatial audio headphones. There's something about having the sound just deep into your ear. Maybe because I have a big head, there's sound echoing through my entire cranium. Maybe, but it feels almost more realistic of spatial audio than maybe headphones hovering over your ear. There's something about headphones hovering over your ear that were like just oxygen and just enough air can get under your headphones, especially if you're using like leather-based or maybe like cloth-based headphones, where having the earbuds just jammed into your ear, it's almost like the sound is suppressed into your eyes, and being in pitch darkness, it's almost like the sound it's almost like the conductive headphones where they kind of run sound through your jawbones. It's almost a similar thing where I was
It
like,
really
man,
depends on the headphones, though. Like, cause
yes,
like
100%.
if you have like really solid, spatial audio headphones, like it's very hard to beat that. Just because
Oh,
you don't have
absolutely.
the driver, you don't have the
Mhm.
the speakers that you have in those like small little earbuds. Of course, some of them are better than others, but yeah, I mean, it depends on the price range, I think, that you'll look at.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's a really good middle ground. Like having just it was really weird because at first I was like, why would they give you these like little tiny earbuds with these, especially when most people have big headphones, but like actually using them. I was playing Forbidden West. Is it Forbidden West, the VR one? Call of the Mountain, Call of the
I get him
Mountain.
confused.
Sorry, that was on
I'm
me.
playing Forbidden West at the same time. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so Call of the Mountain, I noticed that it's the hearing the stereo sound, like when you're fighting and you're kind of strafing left or right. There's it's good enough. It's really powerful. Where I'm like, man, maybe earbuds are a good, suitable at least for that kind of experience for VR.
I mean,
Are
I wouldn't mind
are they resting in
earbuds.
your ear? Just a quick one. Are they resting in your ear, or are they in
Oh, they're in.
in your
They're in. Oh, I
monitors?
got
Like
them.
their ear canal.
They're in my canal. Yeah. I
Okay,
have the
okay.
sound just blasting in there. That's what it is. It just creates a more I don't know. It made me much more connected to the headset. It was very
Yeah.
bizarre where instead of having I don't know, I really like it. It might be my go-to way of playing games once I can. And that's where I was leading towards.
Got
Actually
it.
yesterday around 7 a.m. California time, I got an update. Restart, didn't really think much about it. Restarted the PS5, started Horizon, and X button's not working. So I'm like,
Oh
okay, well,
no.
restarted the PS5,
Hmm.
started again, went on Reddit, found a giant Reddit thread with like almost 30, like just a bunch of comments and just people saying, hey, reset it, a bunch of tricks like, manually, change your button orders or presses, accessibility options, which I didn't feel honestly like dwelling into because then I have to
Right.
reverse all that. So I was like, you know what? Let me just wait for an update. Let me play another game. Maybe it's just the game that's itself. Try Synth Riders. Try to my right hand to select the games, not working. I can't even go through the initial like warning messages. So fortunately, they have the you can use your left hand. So with that one, I was able to scroll through and play. Couldn't start Kayak VR because they required to press X to start. So I was just literally there paddling, looking at the press X to start. It was just I've never felt so heartbroken, especially
Oh.
um comparing this to like the Quest Pro and realizing like this is honestly much more comfortable than the Quest Pro. I couldn't feel it in my head and just I ended up
Hmm.
playing Horizon in the cinema mode.
Oh, you did
Um
that. Okay,
oh
tell
yeah, oh
me.
it's so good. It's
I
so good.
suppose are we? Well, I was going to save that for kind of after the hardware bit, but Adam, just a minute back, you were trying to say something, and I
Oh,
cut you off.
it was just like I think I'm not against earbuds, but I think the PlayStation ones in particular don't stay in my ears. That's the biggest problem I have. So they just
Mm.
first I don't know if I have weird ear shape, but they just fall out. So I just can't keep them in comfortably.
Do they
Um,
ship you with multiple tip ends or no?
Yes.
yes, they did. I have them somewhere. So
Like
maybe I'll have to
three
look into that.
settings or something? That's the Sony standard. They're like, here's three different options.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I just was like, oh, cool, extra thing. Just chuck it in a drawer somewhere to never be seen
Yeah,
again.
I don't remember the exact amount of them. I don't know if it's 3 or 2,
That'll help.
but there is a little
Yeah.
baggie.
Okay.
Like one of the things that's really strange if you have in your monitors is the sound that you have is yourself breathing. Like you hear your own body, particularly if your stomach is grumbling or your intestines are processing something. You'll actually hear that when you plug your ears in that way. So
Yes.
you do feel like weirdly inside your own
Yes.
self, and that I used to listen to music this way like exclusively because you would
Same.
hear tones and sounds and spatial in a way that was totally different. I can't do that anymore, but I miss it because it's a great way to listen, and you don't have to listen at high volume, and you also get isolated from almost everything. I mean, to the point where I remember being in student accommodation with IEMs in, and I almost didn't hear like a fire alarm. That was how much isolation you're getting. So just be careful with that, especially if you get addicted to this and then you go walking, crossing streets. That part I would say is actually a hazard. So I'm just saying it because watch out, don't get squashed by a bus. still love VR and all that, but obviously you're not taking your PSVR 2 for a walk unless you're,
Not
I don't
yet.
know, someone special from Reddit with a backpack.
Yes. Now we're
Unit for
talking.
the PS5, right? And that would look awesome in a video if anyone does it. But okay, so we've talked about the hardware. Before we move on to the software, I will just say the reason why the boxes next to me haven't yet been opened. I got sick because of kids over a party at the weekend. It really took me out, and I have one Achilles heel. Like I feel like I was to some extent born for VR, and this was a real gut punch for me. And I'll just mention it so we can get it past this and move on. And next podcast, I'll give you thoughts and impressions when I get through this stuff. But the thing for me is, if I am ill in any little bit of a way, like if I've got a cold, a common cold or something, it stops me from being able to VR at all. It's really weird because I mean, Rowdy will be able to tell you in the previous group, Mike would have been the one with the sensitive stomach who just couldn't take VR stuff. But like, I've done all the low FPS VR stuff. I generally have a pretty iron will when it comes to these things, iron legs as they used to call them, right, for VR. But I noticed this back in like the DK2 days. If I had an illness coming on, all of a sudden my vestibular system kicks off and it's like, no, Zim, you can't. Like, I'll get sick. I'll feel nauseous like almost instantly. So unfortunately, I have to wait it out until all the illness is completely out of my system before I can VR at all. So I've been waiting. I'd set up. I'd spent, I don't know, a good like 12 hours or something getting ready. I've got a special head cam thing for an stream-based unboxing thing that I was going to do, and I was so pumped for it. The thing showed up on time. Everything was good, everything's good. And then I got ill just at the wrong moment. And I was like, oh no, and we got the podcast coming and everything. So felt a little bit like this week was against me, but take it in stride. So now I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about your experience so far, what you've liked, what you haven't liked on the software side of things. So again, Adam, I know you're leading us through this a little bit, so maybe turn to you first. I am assuming, Rowdy, you didn't get a PSVR 2, right?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So Adam, fire away with your experiences.
So far, what I've played is the New Horizon game. I did a little bit of After the Fall. I also opened up Moss just for fun and Unplugged. I just tried kind of a little snippet of everything just to get a quick sampling. Probably spent most of the time in Horizon, though. Knock on wood, I haven't had an issue with the buttons, but I have actually seen that be a problem for multiple people on Twitter and stuff.
A lot of people. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't want to say I don't regret my purchase because I think I still have hope that there's going to be other really exciting titles out there. I think my favorite part of the headset is just the eye tracking. I feel like we're going to see so many creative uses of the eye tracking. I mean, I can't wait for Switchback that comes out in next month sometime with the blinking and crazy shit happens. I don't know. I love it.
I can't wait either. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, but it's just concerning to me. And I hope that maybe it's just an overtime thing that as I get used to whatever the position is for the sweet spot, because I don't want to have to think that hard every time to get to the sweet spot. I just want to put the damn thing on and it's pretty much ready to go. I don't have to just plus my husband's using it as well, so it just gets adjusted to different things, and it's just I don't know. But so that's probably my least favorite. And I did notice there's a lot of kind of ghosting with characters moving. I mostly noticed that in Horizon because there's actually characters in there. So as long as everything is still, it's like, wow, this is crystal clear and sharp. But once the character starts moving, you're like, oh god, am I drunk a little? Or like, it's kind of annoying. And it kind of bumped me out in that sense. But like I said,
yeah, I've heard a couple people actually feedback and say because of those two issues, the ghosting, like the reprojection ghosting, and again, my head is not squared on completely right now. I don't remember the other one you said.
The sweet spot.
Sweet spot. So because of those two, like some people are returning their headsets as a result of that. But you're coming from Index, and Index from I only had an Index on for a couple of hours, but that's a wide sweet spot in an Index from what I remember. And so the fight, by the way, the squash the headset fight for sweet spot, 3 or 4 people said it in chat. They were doing the same thing. So you're not alone in that.
Sad.
And Yeah.
There's one thing I noticed too, and sadly, as Bradley Lynch posted about it, there is actually like a workaround for the weird washing that's happening. It's actually the brightness that's causing it with HDR. So lowering the brightness just a little bit actually makes that disappear. I haven't been able to test it, but I did see a post about that. So hopefully you can give that a try.
I saw another one very similar to that, Jose, where they were saying you had to enable was 120 hertz projection on a default setting. I saw that. So there's been a few tweaks that have been coming out, like recommended things to make your play experience better. This was, by the way, very, very similar to when the Quest landed, where I remember you were playing over a cable and it was compressing the signal like very poorly. And I remember jumping in Skyrim and being like, why are there so many artifacts everywhere? This doesn't feel like PCVR. And I was stepping from like a Rift S, which didn't have that problem. And then, you tweak some things and you're like, wow, okay, now I can see again. So hopefully if this is just us learning the features that are there, and hopefully Sony will take some moves to address it. But out of the box, we're not hearing a flawless experience. Jose, you were telling us about your controller woes, which is all over Reddit right now. Some people are really, really pissed off about that. So on your side, Jose, what about like your first software experiences, and what have you liked? And
weirdly enough, it's my favorite. I mentioned the earbuds because I had one of my favorite. I love rhythm games. That's actually like my favorite type of gaming, and Synth Riders elevated my expectations of rhythm music. I love Pistol Whip. Pistol Whip was very fun to me, but there's something about, and once you mentioned it earlier, seeing people play games for the first time, seeing people connect really quickly with a game for the first time makes me enjoy and love a game more, which is very weird. So having my whole team over and seeing them play Synth Riders, and most of my team, most of them are VR experienced, but not all of them are, right? So I remember having one of my employees literally put on the headset. We started Synth Riders, and she went from like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, immediately caught on to it. Like immediately knew what to do. And that made me love it. It's just like, man, this is what VR is all about. It's quickly understanding what to do. It also made me miss, like, you guys have mentioned it before, like the original like Beat Saber menu. I never was one of those people that missed that until I understood seeing that in real time with Synth Riders. I was like, wow, what a start button right in front of you does, right? So I really, that's what I spent the most time about, just putting the earbuds in and just listening. I think it just released, so I could talk about it, the Gorillaz music pack, which is all I've been doing. I've been head deep just listening to, just doing the feel good, just watching because that's the cool thing about new headsets too, and high scores is that the high scores are being reset. So I'm enjoying seeing my score in the top 10. Like I'm at top 10 and Feel Good Inc. I mean, last night I checked, but it's probably like destroyed now, but just I love that. Its sound is so good in it, and being able, the light blockers, just makes the whole experience so good.
I got a question for you then, especially because you've been through Quest Pro, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lenses and the OLED display, the blacks, particularly, and the colors in Synth Riders in particular, you've got a lot of neons against dark blacks, and I have to say that in certain headsets that doesn't work that well. How is it in PSVR 2?
It's so good, and that's where the light blockers really kick in. You don't see the power of OLED until you have literally zero light. Adam mentioned cheating. I do that a lot. I have the light blockers on the Quest Pro, and I sometimes do like the little look at my cell phone thing. I cannot do that with the PSVR 2. It's so flush in my eyes. The accordion style headset. Like, I hope more headset manufacturers start playing around with that. I would love to see a Quest 2 mod with the accordion style. I think that is going to be a real big game changer to just destroy lighting. I love what BigScreen is doing, but seeing what PSVR 2 is doing, it's like, I think this is better for mass adoption. I don't like the idea of having one thing designed flush to my face when there's materials that can do the same thing and be versatile for other people to try and test out.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So, okay, from what you've played, and I know we've only had a couple of days here, what's the best thing that you've tried software-wise?
Cinema mode, the HDR10, being able to see...
Please tell me in detail about this. I need to hear this from you.
Seeing HDR in VR was My favorite experience. I think I didn't care. It's the reason I don't care about the control. I feel that if the HDR wasn't as good as it was, I would have complained about the controller way more than I probably should, because I haven't really played any of the games that I'm meant to play. But being able to play Horizon and just sit on the couch, and the headset's virtually light. It's the lightest headset I've used so far. Having it tugged under on the back of my head with the ponytail at least to keep it in place. It was awesome. I haven't played 6 hours straight in a video game in a very long time without a break, and that was probably the first time I did that. So that's when you know.
I got a question for you, Jose. The replacement of a 4K TV with this 1080p HDR signal, like, is it good enough for you? Like,
yes.
Would it be good enough for the average consumer? I'm really curious from that perspective.
I would say that, funny enough, I mentioned this to my team. I'd say this: if you weren't to take the PSVR 2 to somebody in 2012, where HD TVs were starting to kick off, and you show them this, there will be no visual difference. I feel like this is like we're reaching the 2010, 2012 era of screen replacements. There's so much advances that have come a long way that
you're scaring me a little bit now with this comment. Please,
it's
please tell me it doesn't look like a 2012 television.
It does. Remember HD back then, right? Because there had been so many advancements in screen technology, how visuals work, but this is really, really suitable, comparable HDR. It's really nice. The frame rate, right? That's what makes these headsets stand out.
What about the resolution of it? Maybe that's what I'm getting hung up on. So HDR is different. You're talking
I didn't
about
see so playing it in cinema mode. I don't think the game was playing in 4K at all. I would say maybe
it's not.
It's definitely not. Yeah, it's running at 1080p, so the quality is really, really nice. The frame rate feels good. It feels good.
Is it enough?
Yeah.
Are you wanting more?
You don't notice resolution. Resolution is very hard to see after 1080p in games, at least. I haven't tried watching a movie, so maybe that will change my perspective. But at least for games, it's really good enough. I travel with a 20-inch. I talked about it last podcast with the portable screen, and the portable screen. It runs at 240 hertz, but the PS5 doesn't reach those that frame rate, but. Comparing that to the screen of PSVR, it's better, right? It's a 200-inch screen, right? So it's really nice. I love it. I hope that it looks just as good in movies. Maybe somebody in the chat has tried a movie and they can say, or Adam, maybe you have tried, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think for games, it's perfect.
Okay. And Adam, what about you on the software side then? What have you tried that's your favorite thing so far?
It's going to be biased in that I don't know if it's my favorite, but I've been playing most of it because it's the only game that I have that I haven't already played before, and that's Horizon. Okay. So that's what I was kind of looking forward to, is just new. I won't give any spoilers because I know you want to play it. A lot of chat wants to play it. It's just a lot of climbing. I will say that it's a lot of climbing, and it's not not story spoilery. But I couldn't find a setting where. Because I remember we were worried about the combat being in sort of like a ring. I will say it's better now that I'm at home versus a convention center where, you're still on a track, but it's like you have the options of smooth left or right, or like dash left or right. And it kind of makes it easier in combat because then you're not worried about running into a box or something stupid. Because I know I do that in regular VR all the time. You're fighting something and then you back yourself into like a dumb barrel or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can
husbands,
focus or husbands, but more of the in-game objects versus physical objects. But it is nice because at least you can focus mostly on combat. You just have to worry about dodging. So I'm still kind of mixed about it. I would have liked the option to have free movement, but I don't think that is as deal breakery for me as it was when I tried it at CES.
You're a huge Horizon fan, right?
Yes.
So does it feel like a Horizon game?
Yes, I would say it gives the same Horizon vibes, but and it definitely has like lore and canon and and again, no spoilers, but characters. But I feel like in the Horizon games, you had a variety of like combat, you're traversing, you're climbing, and this one you're climbing. There's
but isn't the open world aspect
puzzles
a big thing in like an Horizon game?
Yeah,
it's kind of like instanced open worlds, if that makes sense. So the worlds, when you're in those sections, they do feel big. At least they do a great sense of scale. Like there's waterfalls that are beautiful, everything you can see in a distance. So the feeling is good, but I would say it feels like a Horizon game, but I would have liked maybe more combat so far. I haven't finished. I haven't gone very far.
It is fair, particularly of the like Banuk variety, when it comes to Horizon, Rowdy. At least from Zero Dawn, I can say there's a fair amount of climbing in that. It's not 80% of your experience by any means. 10% of the overall experience when you're item hunting or trying to traverse a cliff or something. But from what I've seen and heard from people who've experienced this so far, and again, I'm trying to stay as spoiler free as possible, it's a Horizon game that gives us a lot of what we've seen in the Climb and the Climb 2, in the traversal in a Horizon world. The combat makes me nervous, I got to be honest. And there is a demo, by the way, for anyone who hasn't like footed the bill for the full game or didn't get the Horizon bundle, there is a demo that you can download and try. So that's going to be my slant. And then I'll probably end up waiting for a sale because I'm a cheap asshole when it comes to this stuff. I just am. And it'll probably give me time to, like Jose, sit down with cinematic mode, play Forbidden West until the end. And then decide to kind of hop into the full experience.
Do you have to finish the original, the second Horizon, Adam?
Yeah. Is it?
I don't think so. I think it would help because then you're like, oh, I know that character, but it's not like I mean, maybe some of the background on like the factions might make more sense, but I don't think you really need to complete it. Or have played the other games.
I'm really enjoying Forbidden West, so I might just finish that. I'm really enjoying it. So
it's good. I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah.
I was scared when I asked my chat. I had a few Horizon fans, right? When I was playing Zero Dawn, I was like, hey, what would you rate the first game? And like 10 out of 10. I'm like, God damn it. I have to play this whole thing now. And so then I spent, I think I'm at 120 hours in the game. I mean, that's a lot for me. That's
the first, on the first one?
On the first one.
And
then for the second game, I was like, okay, but what would you rate the second game? And they're like, oh, no, that was 10 out of 10 too. And I'm like, seriously? Not like 9? They're like, no, it's 10. And I'm like, God damn it. You can't just tell me that these two incredible games that how did I go? Do you ever have this as gamers where you go so long and you don't play a game and then you experience it for the first time? And it feels like, I remember watching, not The Godfather. What's the one with Tony Soprano? The Sopranos, of course. I watched The Sopranos about 15 years after it aired. I know that was a stupid question. Sorry. But we watched it and I was like, God damn, I love this show. And it's like that with Horizon for me. Like I play it and I'm like, wow, this is my game of the year straight away, for flat gaming. Right. And I usually segment between that and VR, but like, wow. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn, I wrung that out. And even to the point where, and I never replay games. I almost never replay games. I would do Game Plus just to play more of it, to experience, to carry my weapons and armor and stuff over to a new game and play again. So I really like how this is coming out. It feels like, okay, we're getting a Horizon game. I know I said it on a previous podcast, though. I still want them to bring a third person and first person blended version of these flat games to VR. I want them to take the AAA content, convert it, give us the full form game. But maybe in the interim, cinematic mode will hold me over. I hope so. Chat's been busy on a whole bunch of fronts, I'm sure, as well, with their PSVR 2s, and we need to still get into some PSVR 2s and got another subject after that. But I want to give you guys airtime. What haven't we talked about yet in terms of PSVR 2, like from your initial reactions so far? And then we'll save the rest maybe for the next podcast.
I guess technical stuff. I tried messing around with like adapters.
Okay.
So far, I have not been able to extend the PSVR 2 cable.
Okay.
I definitely have some theories of the cables. So I ordered 2 cables that are much higher quality to see if that might work. But at this point, 3.2 USB adapters are not working for me. It only strictly works on the USB-C, but that's very early testing. I'm hoping I can get at least another like 10 feet out of it, because that would be like the perfect sweet spot. Then I can hang the cable over the head and then do like the triangle wire setup to really go. I really love this headset.
I'll let you know, Jose, on that, because I've got a 1 meter extender from Ugreen, and I'm going to test that.
Nice.
As well as a MagSafe adapter that I was talking about last podcast. I will try those out probably tomorrow, and I'll let you know how I get on.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, because that's the only thing that made me bummed out. I hate having the cable hanging behind my back. So that's always just takes me out of immersion. If I feel something like, especially if I'm immersed in a game and I feel something like sliding on my back like a cable, it just drives me crazy. Especially it's just weird things like that. Like especially if you're like playing like Synth Riders and this will feel eerily exact because it's what happened to me. But like if you start breaking a sweat and your back gets sweaty and then you feel that cable just sliding and you feel that shirt, it's a terrifying feeling. So yeah, it is. Yeah, it's insane. So I like having the cable hanging over my head, which now worries me because of the way they position the cable. I feel that if I go over the head, the cable's going to kind of like angle upwards, which might create a break. So I don't know if I have to like make maybe some just readjust that corner and make like a weird angle. But it's just
begins, eh?
The modding begins.
And
but that's not the only thing.
What about you then, Adam? For your anything else?
I think for the cable, it doesn't bother me that much, but I think I'm just used to starting off with the original HTC Vive when you had a million cables coming off you plus your headset cable because it didn't have the the adapters yet. And then the index cable I would say is heavier, definitely heavier than the PSVR 2 cable. So this one is pretty as someone used to cables, it's pretty ignorable. Like again, I just face myself so that the cable's always the PlayStation's at my back. So whatever I'm doing is going to be away from the cable just to mitigate that. And this is a bonus tip. It's a very small thing, but it's super handy. And I posted it in chat. And if you have a ponytail, like this is a super ponytail friendly headset because it's most headsets you have to, crank open and then maybe like shove the ponytail through a weird top section of the headset if you're lucky. This one, because of the way it kind of pulls back, you can actually pull it underneath the ponytail versus having to shove the ponytail through the top, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense to people who don't have long hair, but very, very good, very ponytail friendly headset. That little things like that, it's just like, this makes my life a little bit easier so I don't have to just one less thing to mess with because there's other things to mess with.
Did either of you try lying down with it? I'm curious, or against the backrest? What was that experience like?
I have not.
No? I tried it with my hair down and it slides a lot. I hate having my hair down with the PSVR 2. Okay. The only headset that I like with my hair down is the Index. Because of the way it kind of holds on, which is weird because the PSVR 2 kind of has a similar back, but maybe it's the material.
It's because
the material just slides. Yeah.
The center of gravity of the headset's going to be high up, and it'll just want to pop off your head, right? So, Rowdy, do you have questions for these guys on PSVR 2 before we find our way to the next?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'll very briefly say a couple of things. Like, what do you guys think, just in general, on the release list on the PSVR 2?
For me, I am happy to see that there's a significant amount of games, but again, it's all games that I've played before. There are some new titles that I'll go into later that, I haven't played before. They're not PlayStation exclusive, but they're just new. So I feel like they'd be a good excuse to get them on the PlayStation versus the Quest because I'm going to get at least higher quality graphics there. So happy for maybe new people to VR.
Right.
A little sad for myself. That's why I was so hardcore into Horizon because I had never played that anywhere else, and I can't.
That was for me. So also very much.
I was taken back in for a second there because I saw a demon crawl into Adam's scene. You guys won't have seen it on the podcast and should talk, I think, in the background. But sorry. I was blinking. When your eyes haven't fully adjusted yet, and I see this demon. I'm like, what is going on with my life? Anyway, sorry, Rowdy.
I think what Adam just said summarizes for me a little bit why I'm definitely still holding off on it because first of all I don't have a PlayStation 5 and so that's another investment I need to make then as well, and I'm not entirely hung up on the release list. And I thought for myself as well, that's because I've played the majority of those games, but I know quite a few people who have PlayStation 5s who are kind of into VR. They don't have a headset, but they're interested. But then when I asked them, so are you going to purchase VR headset now. None of them said yes. So that kind of like, I don't know, like they said to me that they weren't entirely convinced by the release list and they found the price point too high, and they were going to wait for the reviews of the games because what they've seen, they weren't entirely convinced. And with Horizon Call of the Mountain, I mean, the reviews have been decent, but it's not like, I think IGN gave it like a 7 out of 10 or GameSpot gave it like a 7 out of 10. It's not like, oh, this is a must. This is not Half-Life Alyx in VR. You know what I mean? This is not, you don't get that same kind of thing. And that makes me honestly a little bit worried for the VR headset.
The only
that you don't see this.
That I've seen that did that, Rowdy, is GT7. I've seen that making huge waves. The big problem with that is really the investment. And also, sim racing isn't something just like piloting in VR. It becomes like a hobby all in of itself. And not just from the equipment that you need, even if you're doing it just with the controllers or a DualSense. It's like it's a really neat experience, but if you're not kind of subscribing to that lifestyle, it's like that's a lot of hardware to be putting together. So there's a lot of tentative people I find who are like interested. Interest has been piqued, but not buying, or like holding.
I see the same thing.
Yeah, I see it as like a really
like something to consider, which I totally forgot about because I mostly do PlayStation single player games, is there's the PlayStation Plus. So any multiplayer thing, you're going to have to pay. Because when I was in After the Fall, it constantly had that pop-up of someone was trying to invite me to their lobby. And then it's like, oh, you can't do multiplayer unless you've got PlayStation Plus. And I'm like, I forgot about that. Damn, that's why I'll probably only play it on the PC. Because I already paid for my internet. Like, I hate it so much. So it'll probably mostly single-player games for me on the PlayStation VR 2, if I'm being completely honest,
Yeah.
I'm not too big on that either.
Yeah, I see it as like a very powerful, really, really strong first step. Having the library of all the VR games that we know and cherish, but seeing them in their, once again, the best foot forward. Like, this is the best version of Pistol Whip I've played. The best version of Synth Riders I've played. Yeah. I wish I could add more games to that list, but can't at the moment.
Okay.
But
well, we got 2 weeks to kind of do our homework.
Exactly.
Here, you know what I mean?
But exactly. And adding to that is, you mentioned the PlayStation Plus. We're about to see high quality, well, quote unquote, high quality PC VR games reaching free levels, right? Being released. So that's going to be cool when all of a sudden, the Call of the Mountain does go into PlayStation Plus. And we're going to start seeing the accessibility for really these high-end games. Yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
A lot of people are subscribed to that. I did when I got the PS5. One of the first things that I did, and honestly, it's totally changed my opinion about the PS5, is I went in and I subscribed to that like medium tier level, because I was like, wow, for a $10 a month, I can get access to like 40 different games, which are all like heavy hitters, and I'm like, I can go and try those. To have, and this is what we said, I don't know if his last podcast or the one before it, but if Sony really wants to grab people in, like, let them buy the hardware, but then give them a free ticket to some really good games in the VR space and pull them in. Like, for example, the first one that I would suggest is No Man's Sky. Like, just let people go play in a sandbox game where they can get lost. Even if you're not a No Man's Sky fan, it'll give you, an interesting exposure to something that's a bit different. There's other games that they could do as well, but it's like, to your point there, Jose, I think it's a really important hook that at the moment it's like it's in their capabilities list, but they haven't come out with that yet. And I would expect that by summer we would have some, free VR games added to those subscriptions to also help
trials
pull people in to those multiplayer games. But if you're brand new to VR with this lineup, a lot of this stuff has been tried, fixed, patched, tested, right, enhanced, and it's there for you. So, like, if you're just getting into VR now, for the value you get out of this, it seems really good, and that's why I've been chomping at the bit for a good month and a half to try it, and I am so excited.
But still, I find it strange that people are not that excited about it.
Well, I think the money is a big part of it, but I think also to have VR enthusiasts get enthused about it, we're in our own bubble. You need the only place that I've seen people outside of that bubble get excited for something is the racing side. People have really gripped with the speed and the racing and all of that. I've seen that very heavily, and that's not just because I'm a simmer. I've seen that from people who don't like racing, who are getting into it. Who weren't even a VR person before, who were like, I like F1 or something like that, and like I'm going to go and pick this up, or I have picked it up, and holy shit, it's amazing. Like those mind-blowing experiences are what we need to bring more people in. But it's like what Jose said, it's really sure footing, I think, for a first step. And no headset's going to be perfect, right? I understand that. I'm a little curious about some of the design choices, and I'm worried for maybe the frailty of the headset. The connection to a PS5 still makes me nervous, man. Having a perpendicular connection via one USB-C port, that if that port gets snapped or broken, you're screwed, right? Like that's a grand's worth gone. So I'm going to be watching Reddit like a hawk now, because I want to see what happens during the Darwin Awards. What happens to people's consoles? What happens to their headsets? Who's the first one to have a dog chew their headset? Those kinds of experiences, just to see what happens when it hits real households. That's happening now. It's happening live. So really curious to see that. But with all of that, we got PSVR 2 news dropping like crazy. A bunch of different titles have come. So if you have your PSVR 2 and maybe didn't catch up with the news just yet, maybe Adam, you can talk us a little bit through state of play and some of the news that we got just over the last week or so.
There's a lot. So I'll go over these relatively quickly. Like I said, some of these are going to be familiar titles, but I will also kind of separate off the newer ones as well. But first we have 10 new games were officially announced by Sony. So that brings the release window game titles to, I believe over 40 now, which again, in itself is impressive. I think we might be biased in that we know some of these games are good. We're familiar with these titles. We know Pistol Whip, Synth Riders, Moss, whatever, but a normal, first time VR person might not know what these are, and unless it's slapped with Horizon or Call of Duty, or I don't know, it's a good example. You know what I mean? But anyway,
we know what you mean.
Some of the new titles that are slated they might be out now, actually. The first one is Gorn, which is that ludicrously violent VR gladiator simulator, which is going to probably break a lot of TVs. So keep an eye out for Reddit, because that'll be a fun one for accidents.
Turn the other way. Do not face your TV. If you're showing a guest Gorn, turn the other way. Yeah, please don't break your TV.
We also have Knock, which is coming to PlayStation VR 2 as well. Oh, sorry, I just had a giant lightning thunder thing come on, which is very unusual for California. That was slightly terrifying.
Wow.
Speaking of lightning and thunder, hopefully I don't disconnect or something. There's Ragnarok. Good luck. So speaking of Vikings and having mythological environments come down, Ragnarok's another one that's coming, which I'm kind of a fan of. I like that one. We got Star Tenders, Intergalactic Bartending. That's where you basically dock your bar ship, serve up some wild creations to various aliens. Swordsman VR is coming to PSVR 2 as well. And interesting with that one is there's going to be a free upgrade for the first 3 months for players who own the PSVR version as well. So that's kind of a...
And that's a very smart stab for them, because they're in ahead of Blade and Sorcery, right? So they are the violent sword fighting game, right? So
So that was a smart move. I think that was interesting. Along with another rhythm game, we've got Unplugged, of course, featuring Ozzy Osbourne, Offspring, Weezer. Of course, it's kind of like your Guitar Hero, but for VR. We also have Runner, which is a arcade experience that is coming out came out the 22nd already. So that one's already come out, but was recently announced. It's basically freeform VR shooting on a motorcycle combat. We have some of the newer titles. One of them that you mentioned already is another Fisherman's Tale, of course. Oh, yes. No specific date for that one yet, other than this year. There's going to be a lot of those for these new titles. We also have Hellsweeper VR, which is a really interesting one. I know a lot of people are excited for that. By the same creators of Sorrento VR and Arizona Sunshine. Basically, physics, gravity-defying movements. You traverse the dimensions of hell, and you gain a mastery of a wide range of weapons and elemental magic. Again, later this year.
Yep.
But, this one I thought was interesting because I've been following the developer on Twitter. It's called Sushi Ben. How to describe this one? It's sort of like it's a VR narrative adventure that's sort of comic book style. Not quite anime, I want to say, but it has a lot of like paneling involved, if that makes sense. So you'll basically meet townspeople, help them out. It's a very colorful 3D manga panels. That's a better way of wording it, I think.
Yes.
Like sort of like an anime inspired art style, but manga specific, not like.
Did we have this on Steam VR before?
No.
That one?
I don't think so. I don't think it's been released anywhere yet.
I'll have a look because I remember it coming up at one point, but this was years ago, and I wasn't sure if we ever got it. So Sushi Ben, you think maybe new on PSVR?
Yes.
He's a developer. He's releasing a new game. I think he hasn't released it yet. He's been developing it for a while. I follow him on Twitter also. He's super rad, but it's the tech. It's the tech that stands out for Sushi Ben. Like, I'm so I didn't even know it was releasing for PSVR 2. So I'm like, now you got me hyped. Because
I know, me too.
I remember seeing the original tech demo that he released on Twitter, and he had a floating anime manga panel where you can go inside the panel and see so when you go backwards, it looks like a normal 2D panel. It is the most craziest thing because now he has animations happening in video. So all the cutscenes jump in. It reminds me of Beautiful Joe. If you guys might be a deep cut.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So it reminds me of Beautiful Joe with the cool cutscenes that are happening outside of a video, which is really cool. I'm so hyped. And it's it's a slice of life game.
You just reminded me, Rowdy, there was like it was a horror game on Quest. I don't know if you're going to remember it. And it was like that. It was a stylized, I'm not remembering this now. Stylized almost like in the style of 13, like cell shaded.
Wait, was it with the teddy bear?
I know what you're talking about. Very bloody, right?
No, not the teddy bear. That's going even further back. It was more recent. It was a Quest standalone title, I remember. Maybe chat will help me out. I'm not remembering it now. Yeah, it was shortly before. Never mind. Pass it up. But we've seen that kind of comic book style trick done in a few titles over the years. But this one looks interesting. It was on Itch. That's where I had seen it before. So as we're looking for various different indie titles, but I think the moral of the story here is there's a lot they were holding back. I mean, the amount of titles that they've ended up coming out with, which are established titles, there's a lot, and then there's stuff coming. Like having a pipeline of stuff, even if we don't know the specific dates for releases, there's quite a bit still coming this year. So very healthy run, and not all the same thing, which is nice. A nice
They're not
kind of
even
variety.
done yet. Hold on, we still got more.
Nice.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah. Okay, these ones were super. I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly. These titles were not mentioned by Sony, but we found them out from developer pages, Twitter, all that good stuff. Project Wingman. That's confirmed for PSVR 2. Basically, it's a flat screen VR supported flat screen VR supported flight action game. So that's going to be also ported over to the PSVR 2, which should be interesting, especially for flight sim fans, which really, I crash everything. So,
well, that was really interesting because an indie dev had made that from the ground up, trying to take down some of the, just like give an experience that others hadn't had. And although it launched on PCVR, I didn't find it was that great a game there, but he's had the last year and a half to kind of tune it. And the game I had been looking for, by the way, was Lies Beneath. That was the title that I was trying to think of.
I remember that.
Anyway, so you continue, Adam. There you go.
And then a title that's sitting on my Steam library, and I'm ashamed that I haven't played yet, but I'll get to it eventually. Wanderer is also, I think, unsurprisingly, going to be moving over to PSVR 2.
Oh boy, Wanderer is a treat. You're going to enjoy that.
I know.
You're going to enjoy that.
It's one of those that's been stuck in my library, and I haven't got a chance to yet. And I'm very ashamed. I shouldn't have admitted that on this podcast.
Well, that was my game of the year last year. Was Wanderer. Very good.
I don't know if anyone's played these, but we also have Cactus Cowboy, Plants at War. But basically, the Cactus Cowboy series, they started off on side quests, so it's really kind of fun and interesting to see that now the developer is getting his games on the PlayStation VR 2, which is kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I've never.
And it's free. It's a free title.
Yeah.
That's what surprised me the most.
Wow.
I mean, it looks kind of like a free title, but the fact that we're getting anything for free is kind of surprising. So,
but either way,
yeah.
good on
It
him.
reminds me of D-Day. There was this combat game that was actually quite good. I can't remember where that launched now. Was that PSVR 1? I think it was, where it was kind of Battlefield style. So I'm keen to try this, but it's kind of like World War II with cacti. I know that sounds ridiculous because it looks ridiculous.
Awesome.
And
That sounds awesome.
I don't know. I've never played a game like that before, so I've got to check it out and see if it's any good. I'll report back from the front.
Please do. Appreciate it. Then, of course, we had this past Thursday was PlayStation State of Play, which I kept for some reason incorrectly calling PlayStation Beyond. I don't know why or where I got that title from. No idea. But PlayStation State of Play, this kind of brought up some more titles that are coming to VR. Not launch titles, but sometime this year. The first, of course, we have is Green Hell VR. So for those of you familiar or not familiar, we have a Steam version for Green Hell VR and also a Quest version. I'm guessing that the PSVR 2 versions kind of be bigger of an area, more based on the desktop version, like the Steam one, because the Quest version was sort of more, it wasn't open worldy. It felt like it, but you were forced to go through paths. Like it wasn't in Green Hell, the flat game, you could get lost, and then the Steam version is sort of the Steam VR version is kind of similar. So we'll see. Curious to see that one. I like survival games, so and getting leeches on me and whatever. Taking
Special
leeches
S.
Yeah.
That's an amazing list.
Then we've got. I'm not done. Hold on. We've got a couple more. Synapse, which is by End Dreams, the team behind Fract.
Yes.
This one's kind of shooty, Death Stranding. Not Death Stranding, but visually it looks like Death Stranding, but it's very shooty, combines firepower with telekinesis, very unique looking later this year.
We definitely need to show that one off. And I say that because, so that's Synapse. It reminded me quite strongly of the Solaris project, which was, I would call it On Land Subnautica, which was quite a big title on the original PlayStation VR 1.
Huh.
You had like land tornadoes and you were trying to survive. You went like cave spelunking and stuff. It was really neat. It was called the Solus Project. But this looks like they mixed that with like Super Hot and maybe a couple other VR titles that come to mind, but very heavily stylized, as you said, right? So it's got the look and feel. The neat part about it is the idea that you're able to dual control. So it reminded me of that flat game control that Rowdy was always on about. Although I don't know much about it, he's described it to me. And it's like having superpowers and having the gunplay and kind of, I don't know if it's a slowdown mechanic, but in that stylized frame might make for quite a good game. I don't know. The previous title, Fract, like didn't sit with me very well. So to see, another End Dreams game coming that looks like it's kind of like they took that formula with Fract and pivoted, and they're like, how can we use that same engine in a different way and maybe reshape it? I'm a little bit hesitant on it, but the world looks very cool, and I just hope that the addition of superpowers gives you enough to make it feel, I'll say like a pistol whip or something like that, right? Something that you really love the groove of and can gel with. But yeah, Synapse is a very interesting looking game right now.
It is. Well, I guess we'll have to see, because I felt the same about Fract. I thought it was all right. I liked the dodging, or not dodging, but sort of the cover system in Fract, being able to grab walls and sort of push yourself down. So we'll have to see. We'll find out later this year, just like everything else. Then we've got Journey to Foundation. This one gives Mass Effect vibes. It's based on the studio behind Doom 3 VR, Marvel, Dimension of Heroes. It's based on an Apple TV show, but doesn't seem to have a connection between the game's story and the show, aside from its underlying background. That one we actually have autumn 2023. So hey, that's a little more narrow. I don't know if anyone's watched that though, but yeah. No. Then we've got Before Your Eyes. This one I'm interested in because it utilizes eye tracking in an interesting way. It's not a new title, but it's getting VR treatment through the PlayStation VR 2. It basically, you control the flow of the story as you relive memories of family, first love, and the rise of an artistic career. So it's more of a nice, wholesome, maybe wholesome story based, but it's controlled by eye tracking but I wonder if I'm going to blink too fast. I'm going to miss it. My life will be flash before my eyes. Two more. I got two more. Let's go. We got the Foglands, which is also it's an atmospheric roguelike. Well, you discover new paths, uncover old secrets. This one looks kind of interesting. It's not only going to be exclusive for PSVR 2, but it's also like flat PlayStation. And then Humanity, which is getting the Resident Evil Village treatment in that it's a flat game that's going to have PlayStation VR support. And that one's coming out in May. This is kind of interesting because it's like a platformer puzzle game where you play as a holy looking Shiba Inu, and you sort of have to guide. It's a holy Shiba Inu. I don't know how else to describe it. Watch the trailer, you'll know what I mean. And you're guiding a bunch of people to salvation, I guess, to some sort of good end. And it seems like there's a good and a bad side to the Humanity. I don't know if it's
the Shiba Inu
demons and no, the Shiba Inu is always a good doggo, always a good boy or girl.
Always a good dog.
Yeah, but there'll be a sandbox mode to make your own maps and puzzles too. So that one's coming out May, so we can look forward to that. And that is all the PlayStation, all of the everythings that's either coming out or is out on releases.
Thank you, Adam.
List, honestly,
it's too much to keep up with. It is an overwhelming amount of content that has been announced, and I'm still reeling. And I'm sure all of you are from just that list. So
I only have one nitpick that I want to die on this hill, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. Did you mention that there is a Ozzy Osbourne pack for Unplugged being released?
Is there?
I think it already exists.
Why wasn't that the commercial? Why wasn't Ozzy playing Unplugged? Instead, he's playing Horizon on what?
That's a good point.
That's all. That's my only gripe with the list that you mentioned. Like that.
We're going back to Ozzy
said
again.
that.
God.
You casually went down the list and you mentioned that, and my brain went. It's like what?
I regretted it as soon as I said it.
Yeah.
Well, just like Ozzy's brain exploded, there's a new headset on the scene. I'm segueing us out of this, detouring us away from Jurassic Park and Ozzy and all that. So, thank you, Adam, for the lovely coverage on the PSVR 2. I want to talk very briefly about BigScreen Beyond, which is a new $1,000 headset. You might have seen it there in the thumbnail. You get it, $1,000 gets you just the headset. It requires Steam controllers and a base station. It's got pancake optics, and it's a shockingly light 127 grams. I mean, it's absolutely tiny, this thing. It's got custom foam, which is one of the points that Jose was alluding to earlier, where they'll actually take, as part of ordering one of these things, an iPhone face scan, a 3D map of your face, and then customize the foam that comes to you with the headset. It's a customized headset, so it is really a headset for an individual, not to be swapped around with 5 people in your dormitory. It is a wide, slim profile and looks pretty good for simmers. The band is described like swim goggles, as it really connects to your face, full around it, hugs it. It's 2560 by 2560 per eye, so a high pixel density panel. The FOV, I would say, on paper might look a little disappointing to some, as it's a 90 by 93 degree view that you get. But with the high resolution panels, the whole package looks quite impressive. For me, this is the DK1 for the next stage of VR. It's the prototype model. It's the one to get in on if you have spare cash and a passion for hardware. I actually wonder what Jose's take is on this in particular, because this headset, this form factor, as small as it is this kind of pancake headset, it's the first one to look shockingly like Ready Player One's kind of form factor of headset. And I think this really does depart us from what we were talking about with PSVR 2 being maybe the last gargantuan head mask, and now we're getting into the stuff that looks sleek and sexy and small. So Jose, what's your take on this equipment? And I'm curious if you've lined up or not.
I want to. I wish I could. I kind of briefly mentioned my gripes that will make me on Twitter. The first thing, and I actually messaged the big screen post about it. The CEO was actively responded to everybody, but ironically missed my question.
Joe Shan.
Yeah. Which was they said each one is customized by hand for you, right? And they kind of hinted at the customization part, but they're kind of keeping it gray. How how is the customization manual? Is the headset itself being built by hand, which means no quality assurance in the supply chain management? How is this device going to be? What adhesives are going to be used? What is the wait time? Is it, if it is releasing this year, will there be a, what is the roadmap? Where does this headset go? What is the
the wait
parts?
time was, I'll just mention the wait time was addressed because I didn't mention that already, but it's like 3 to 5 months from your order. So this is, again, it's kind of similar to when I ordered my DK2 and waited 4.5 months for the thing. And it is expected to take that time because they have to customize.
And I agree.
But you're right. There's
what
some
worries,
headset kind of like this, right? Where they're building the shoe custom for you.
I think it's an incredible headset. I think it's an amazing case study in the use case. What worries me is a company building a prototype and then deciding, oh, we need to fundraise to make this prototype a real thing. And instead of going through the channels that are designed for fundraising, like the Kickstarters or I forgot the other ones, but they instead built their own infrastructure to make money, which means if this device never comes into the market, there's no legal channel for you to go and say, hey, this was done through Kickstarter. We can at least get refunds pre-processed. To be quite honest, I don't know BigScreen. I don't want to put implications out there, but from a business, as an investor, like to buy a product in, it scares me. I think that there should be things that they could address to make these fears go away. Like, hey, we're partnered with this supply chain. This is the people they're going to work with. This is the factory. They made an amazing app. And the amazing app is still there, and the app is failing, and there's market realities why the app is failing and why they're doing this. So will that be able to justify the failing app? I don't see that happening. They're trying, their goal is to rent movies in VR. Netflix already is, there's an APK for Netflix in VR.
So they are to some extent
bypassing licensing
here, but they're a little bit cock-blocked by platform owners based upon the surcharges, and that's one of the headwinds that Darshan has aimed to mitigate by moving in a different direction.
Which is weird to say when you think about it. That what he's really saying is, hey, there's a really big locked door here. We're going to go ahead and create another big locked door over here instead, which is like, how is that going to benefit a consumer in the end, in the long run? I'm going to buy $1,000 headset that's going to be DRM to an app because that's their goal. That's why there's an app involved.
Yeah, there are definitely concerns with the big screen component. I'd almost feel better if they tied a knot in big screen, which is the wind, the wind behind their sails to start all this off, and actually just manufacture the headset as an open source VR headset with that form factor. Then I'd be way more interested in it. But look, I know we're running way over. This is the longest podcast in history, I think. But we're going to go ahead and kind of pull this one to a close. Just we'll maybe revisit big screen as we hear bulletins as we come forward. We've got headsets big and headsets small, a headset that's wide and a cable that's very, very long. But perhaps that's enough now for the cat in the hat. Jose's here to get the laddies and lassies snuggled in their beds. Dreams of sugar plums and Resident Evil dancing in their heads. It's hat time. Yes, it is. It's time for releases.
Oh, man.
My dear friends.
I feel like adding any name after Adam's 45 plus.
I know.
It's going to be insane. But there's one that stood out for me because I love this show and I love the idea of, I love history. So being able to travel into historical places, quote unquote, whatever that means in a virtual recreation. So the only one I'm going to list this week is Peaky Blinders, The King's Ransom. Oh. It's releasing on the Quest and on PC VR on March 9th. There's no price listed, but if you're into 1920s London, the lore, visiting the bar and just interacting with the characters from the show, there has been a few reviews and insider scoops of people saying hey, this actually feels eerily like the show. So it's really dope. I'm really excited for it. But that's the only one that stood out for me. I had a few listed like Vertigo 2, but it's a bunch of pew-pew games. So I feel like I'm going to just mention Peaky Blinders, The King's Ransom.
You said Vertigo 2. Is Vertigo 2 launching soon?
In March for PC VR.
Okay.
It looks there's no release date pricing yet.
We don't think we have a formal date.
We don't have a formal,
yet,
no formal date, just a little.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So it's more like calendar. Okay, Peaky Blinders. We'll keep that one out there. Yeah. Thank you very much, Jose.
Yeah, I didn't want to extend it any longer. I had 45 other games to list, so.
You're fine. I know we had a lot there. Well, that's that. Chat, I'm not going to give you a chance this this chat because we are running long. But I'll tell you what. Let us know what you thought if you had comments or remarks, and maybe we'll pick them up, respond back to you in Discord or something. FReality, you know when it goes live, but it's every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. We run the show starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. Audio's on SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes. If you are watching back, let us know what you thought. Hop on our Discord. And we're always eager to show something awesome if you've got it. So hit us up at contact@freeality.tv. I love this crew. I really do. I've tried to kill them with about 1 million messages this week. But hey, we've gotten closer, become incredibly immature together, and aim to bring you entertainment for years to come. That's us at FReality. We'll let you all get back to VR and see you on the next one for something exciting. All right. Thanks, everyone. VR is calling.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.